In this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns and those who dig. Broadcasting from a Montana wilderness fortress at the headwaters of the Missouri, this is Matt Christiansen Live.
Hegseth, what sort of example is he leading as the Secretary of Defense? Who did he replace? Lloyd Austin, an African-American.
Oh, good for you.
A 4-star general. So when you replace excellence by mediocrity, that is what you get.
I don't need to be Shut up, silly woman.
What this is about is really the myth of meritocracy. There's a myth of meritocracy in this country. It's never been a meritocracy. It's been an ethnocracy, actually. It's been about white, mediocre men that are given opportunities.
I doubt it.
You are fake news.
Go back to where you come from, okay?
Very fake news.
I can't believe that someone would have so much hate in their heart.
Bingo.
Fed.
All right, America, go to the YouTube right now.
Skag free whoever he is.
Dude, Matt straight up sucks.
How dare you?
In 5, 4, 3.
I can't do it. We'll do it live.
Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is Matt Christiansen Live for Sunday, March 30th, 2025. Thank you for tuning in. Sitting shotgun tonight is my friend, Matt Palumbo from BonginoReport.com. Thanks for joining.
Good to be back.
As always, find Matt's links in the description. Great guest tonight, my friend Liberty Doll. If I don't botch her name to start, that's a bad omen. But Liberty Doll will join to discuss the Supreme Court decision on ghost guns, and we'll talk some other topics as well. I'll bring her on in about a half hour for discussion between you and me tonight on the Matt and Matt Show, Mr. Palumbo. It's Tariff Week. Are you prepared? Are you ready for Tariff apocalypse?
I mean, I predict they're going to be temporary. I mean, they're not really tariffs for the sake of generating revenue. They are for achieving political goals.
True tariffs have never been tried, I'm told.
That is true. We're trying them now, unless they fail, in which case true tariffs have never been tried again. Yes.
All right. Well, Wednesday is the day, April 2nd. Assuming Trump sticks to the plan, is it all big talk? Are we really going to do this? I guess we'll find out midweek. Big news late in the week, the FDA's lead vaccine guy resigns or was forced out while calling out RFK for his supposed misinformation and lies. I'm surprised the guy even stuck around this long, but he's leaving now. NPR demonstrates exactly why it faces some Doge cuts potentially with an absolutely twisted story about gender transitions for teenagers. As always, the pronouns are the most difficult to navigate. I'll try to decipher the story. I'm excited to talk about this one with you. A woman went viral this week with a video about breaking up with her boyfriend over politics, and some of the insane feminine hysterics are obvious, but I think it has as much to say about men's roles and potentially what this man in this situation did as it does about, insane female hysterics. So we'll get into that. And I have a hoax hate triple feature to close. We have plenty tonight. A pat on my back for calling out, or for correctly identifying maybe the most easily identifiable hoax hate case of the year so far. A Pennsylvania city worker's noose was indeed of the Jussie Smollett hoax variety. How am I so good at seeing these things ahead of time?
You always know it's fake because it's always 1850s style racism whenever it's a hoax. So they have never mentally gone past any of that.
Why can they never afford a quality rope for the noose? It's made of like paracord or string. Go get a quality thick rope at the hardware store if you're going to do this.
Yeah,
I don't
menacingly. Yeah, they're very. It's very low energy self racism.
It's a tough economy, I guess. I understand. Yeah. We'll catch up with your super chats as well. And hey, I know a lot of you have some questions about last Sunday's super chat segment. I do have some more information for you and some good news. So I'll get to that in a moment. But speaking of, hey, if you enjoy the show, please consider supporting the show. You can do that for as little as $1 a month over on my website. That's mattchristiansenmedia.com/support. Support for the show not only helps me sustain, but it helps me pay the people who make the show possible as well. There are perks available for your support. And don't forget, there are lots of new graphics available in the merch store on the website as well. T-shirts, mugs, lots more cool stuff. Likewise, merch sales help not only my operation, but they support the designers who made the graphics as well, all of whom are listeners of this stream. Find both of those links right there on the homepage, mattchristiansenmedia.com or mattis.gay, if you can't spell my confusing name. Is there any clue? Can you spell my name on the spot? Last name.
Christ?
Yes. Well, like Jesus, yes, thank you for the compliment.
Christ. I'm looking away from the camera so you know I'm not cheating. So Christ, Ian, I-A-N.
I guess it does. I do have a shirt that's right there. Yes, you're right. Okay. You're right. All right. Teed you up for that.
And then S-E-N. So Matt, Christ Ian Sen.
Wait, wait. Spell it out. All 12.
C-H-R-I. What were we doing? A spelling bee? All right.
Yeah.
Christiansen. C-H-R-I-S-T-I-A-N-S-E-N.
You did it.
Christiansen.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, butthead.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Thank you. That's why I hire top talent for this show. Even though I have it on the screen for you to read.
Immediately. I'm not a liar.
You did it perfectly. I'm the one who botched the bit. But it was on the spot, so whatever. Hey, we got to say hello to our friendly listener-owned business for the evening as well, and that's our friends over at Kinneo Mountain Woodsmithing. These are high-quality, handmade, premium hardwood cutting boards, charcuterie boards, serving trays, and more, all of which are great gift options or the perfect piece to class up your kitchen or anywhere else. Blake at Kinneo Mountain made me a cutting board engraved with my channel logo. It looks amazing. It's been a part of our kitchen for a very long time now. Has not aged a bit. And in addition to the quality, that's the best part about Kinneo Mountain Woodsmithing's products. They are fully customizable, not just in materials, but in engravings too. So if you'd like to personalize a gift like that, that can be arranged. Or if you have any custom hardwood project in mind, no matter how big or how small, Kinneo Mountain Woodsmithing can make that a reality for you. Just get in touch at KinneoWood.com. All Kinneo Mountain Woodsmithing products are made in Colorado from premium domestic hardwood sources. No tariffs here to worry about. Kinneo Mountain Woodsmithing is the absolute highest quality woodworking that will last you forever. Listeners of this show get 10% off all Kinneo Mountain Woodsmithing products and services using promo code MATT10 at checkout. That's promo code MATT10 for 10% off everything at KinneoWood.com, KINEOWOOD.com. Find everything you need from Kinneo Mountain Woodsmithing, plus other great offers from the rest of our friendly listener-owned businesses like Hero Soap Company, Western Razor Company, Hope Innovations, and more. MattChristiansenMedia.com/deals. Deals by listeners for listeners. And hey, don't forget, also get some spearmint soap from Hero Soap. Why haven't you yet? Don't just freshen up with some spearmint gum. Try the full body fresh of spearmint bar soap from Hero Soap Company. As always, 10% off everything from our friends at Hero Soap Company using promo code MCListener. HeroSoapCompany.com. Promo code MCListener. All right, a little bit of housekeeping before we get into some news. For people who participate in my Bible study, I had a personal thing come up. We have the Bible study Fridays at 9 Eastern. I had to cancel this week due to something that came up for me. My apology for the late cancellation. And I had to cancel only a few hours ahead of time. Usually I put a visual note in the Zoom call that says, hey, Bible study is canceled. I think for whatever reason, it didn't work this week. Sorry for any confusion. As always, if you're trying to join the Bible study and you're not getting in, check the Bible study on my website that has all the current information linked on the homepage. Bible study will return this Friday, April 4th at 9 Eastern. We're finishing up our study of Acts in the next few weeks, and you can join anytime, even if you haven't joined the Bible study at all up to this point. You're welcome, and we'd love to have you. Or if you'd like to listen to Bible study as an audio podcast, you can do that too. There's podcast feeds on the Bible study page of my website that you can check out if you'd just like to listen whenever you feel inclined to do so. Bible study page of my website is where you find all that information. All right, onto the super chat mystery or the super chat scandal. So, Matt, I know you're a little bit familiar with what happened. You may have observed what was a very memorable moment with our friend Knuckle Hunkybuck during the super chat segment on Sunday. And after that segment, and rather than just having me explain what happened, well, instead of me just going through exactly what happened, if you missed, just go watch last Sunday's super chat segment that started about an hour and a half into the stream. After that segment, a lot of people, myself included, were worried about our friend Knuckle Hunkybuck, who joins every Sunday to go through super chats with me. And I can tell you some updates with his permission that I've had 2 conversations on the phone with him this week. So this week, Knuckle Hunkybuck checked himself into a psych facility. And here are the list of points that he gave me that he would like to share with you. Number 1. His doctor believes that the episode was brought on by sleep deprivation and stress. He personally believes that he had a legitimate spiritual experience. He's still convinced of that. I shouldn't say still. I mean, I believe him. I take him at his word when he says that. So I don't think that that's some mental health issue or some fakery or something like that. He has been diagnosed as bipolar. He is accepting mental health help for the first time, he says. He's trying to learn true compassion and humility. He wants to be brave, open, and honest with himself, loved ones, me, and the audience. He appreciates patience and understanding from me and the listeners. He doesn't expect to be treated with kid gloves. He says the truth is more important than candy coating. He does not, just to clarify, he does not have information that could lead to the arrest of Hillary Clinton, and he requests the corresponding Jussie Smollett sounder.
I am not suicidal!
He is taking time off to heal and grow, and he hopes to return to the show if or when he is ready.
We love you. You're very special.
So my own response to these points, number 1, I'm glad that he's getting some help, and I don't want him to feel embarrassed for doing that. I think it's a very good thing, and I'm happy that he's doing that. Number 2, I really appreciate his expressing respect for the audience, because that's very important to me. I experienced that episode on Sunday in the same way that we all did. I had no knowledge ahead of time that was coming. I think it's fair to say that we were all confused, a little bit concerned. I'm glad he wants you to know what happened. I don't know about you, Matt, but regardless of circumstance, I hate it when shows just disappear people. I'm not calling out anyone in particular, but when people just disappear from and there's no leveling with the audience, no explanation for what happened. I hate that. So
I think it would be worse too if it disappeared after the way it went, after how it went. And I don't know, to me, it was just sad to watch more than anything else. And I could tell he wasn't on drugs just because, like, I don't know of any drugs that make you behave that way. Not like I'm an expert on it. I thought it was a mental health thing. So I don't know. I just don't think we should criticize him and say, he shouldn't have went on the show if he felt that way or something like that. If you're having, a manic episode, you're not really thinking those things through in that way. So I don't know. I'm just glad he's getting treatment and all that.
It's very important to me to level with the audience no matter what happens. Obviously, the history of this stream, there's been a lot of changes, a lot of controversies. You can't always navigate it perfectly, but I do always prefer to be as honest with the audience as possible. And I really appreciate that Knuckle Hunkybuck is helping me do that to a certain degree at the expense of his own privacy. And it's not easy to say that sort of thing online. So I appreciate that he's doing that. Now, as far as his return, of course, the priority is getting himself right. And beyond this episode, he's not going to be back in the short term. But I do appreciate his contribution to what has been just a really tough time for this stream, trying to adapt to changes that happened last fall. Not that the stream itself has been tough. I appreciate doing this and I love doing this. It's just anytime you have major change like that, that's a situation to navigate. And he's helped me get through some of that. And everybody loves a good redemption or recovery story. So right now, the one commitment I'll make is, hey, if he wants to come back, when he gets right and he's clear of this and he's confident, if he wants to come back on the show and at least give us an update and describe his experience, I think we'd all like to hear that. So I'm more than open to do that. When will that be? It's not going to be next week. It's not going to be the week after that. It's however long it takes for him to get healthy and to be completely beyond what happened and to be completely confident about his state of mind and his general health. And, I want to make sure that when he does come back, it legitimately is a
great story, compelling and rich.
He can describe it and tell it in a healthy way. So all the best to our friend Knuckle Hunkybuck and his friends and his family. We look forward to hearing from him again when the time is right. But let's get into the big news of the coming week. It's officially Tariff Eve. Or maybe Tariff Eve. How many Eves is it? I don't know. That's your next assignment. Count the Eves.
What is it Wednesday?
Yeah.
All right, so Tuesday would be Eve. Monday is Eve. So we're Eve.
Okay, so it is 3. The triple Eve.
Yeah, triple Eve.
Tariff, triple Eve. Trump, as of this hour, as of today, still committed to these major tariffs to hit Wednesday. Trump is calling it, hey, there's a super chat from our friend Knuckle Hunkybuck. I'll get to that later.
Oh, cool.
Anyway, so Trump is calling it Liberation Day. We're all going to be free from those damned foreign goods. No more foreign goods ruling over your life. No. What exactly is planned? What's coming on Wednesday? Well, these reciprocal tariffs he's been talking about for a long time, those are set to take effect. So the idea is whatever tariffs a foreign country applies to us and our goods going to their country, we're going to apply the same tariff to their goods coming to our country. And Trump is talking about potentially tariffs to hit major trading partners, the EU, South Korea, Brazil, India, and more, beyond the people we've already talked about, Canada, Mexico, the rest of them. But this week, Trump also announced 25% tariffs on cars and car parts made in other countries. Now, responding to concerns that car prices will rise, Trump said, I hope the foreign car companies, raise their prices, because if they do, people are going to buy American-made cars. But I don't know about you. Have you seen an official definition under this plan of what counts as an American-made car? Because I have not.
Well, that's the thing. Like there are Japanese car makers where a larger percentage of the car parts or the materials that manufacture the car are American than American car makers. So it depends. Like, do you want the production jobs here or the jobs that are from the supply chain? And I don't know which, accounts for more, but no, I haven't seen. I mean, I'm assuming it's just based on are they American owned and are there plants, manufacturing plants here though?
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. That's the confusion that I have, and I think that we all have, that there are foreign car companies that manufacture in the U.S., there are American car companies that manufacture abroad, or a mix of both, and then you have the combination of the parts that oftentimes, even if it's assembled in the U.S., oftentimes the parts are coming from a foreign country. So what exactly what tariffs are going to be applied to what car companies and how? Sort of undefined so far, and then what costs will we actually realize? Well, we'll have to find out. Now, I would expect that most car companies are just going to take the costs that they assume and spread them out evenly across their line, rather than say like, hey, that car comes from Japan or that car comes from Mexico, but this one comes from somewhere in the United States. So that one's like $5-10 grand more, but this one isn't. I can't imagine they're actually going to do that. They would probably just say they're all like $2,000 more, $3,000 more, whatever.
That would probably be way easier. Although the only thing is, if it's a cheaper car, then proportionally it's going up by more. So yeah, I don't know. Like I'm trying to think from the perspective of the manufacturer. Like, would it make more sense to mark up the expensive ones under the theory that they would then be subsidizing the lower income? It's tough to say. I mean, I'm hoping that this is one of those things where right before they're going to take effect, our competitors just make all these concessions and then Trump saves the day and looks like a genius, but I don't know.
There's a lot more than just cars, too. I skipped over some of it. So we're actually planning tariffs on any country that imports Venezuelan oil, although we ourselves import Venezuelan oil. So I don't know what quantity, but at least according to this AP reporting, we do.
I'm not trying to sound like a socialist here, but companies like Citgo or like, companies in America that are owned by our adversaries, why do we let that happen? Like, why don't we just seize them at that point? Like, we're leaving hundreds of billions of dollars on the table. I know it's obviously sort of authoritarian, but if they're, hate us and all that, why not?
Well, I've been told by a district court judge in D.C. that Venezuela is not an adversary of any kind. So I don't know what you're worried about, really.
Nah, never mind.
Yeah. Nobody hates Tren de Aragua more than the Venezuelan government. That's for sure. Completely distinct entities. China's getting an additional 20% tariff for their role in fentanyl production. And then steel and aluminum imports also going to face a 25% tariff. And so what exactly is the goal? Well, as you mentioned, we've kind of heard this all of the above explanation from various officials in the White House. There's protecting American industry, like Trump is talking about, while the American car industry is going to boom and foreign car manufacturers are going to suffer. There's bringing industry back to America, like, hey, if you want to avoid the tariffs, manufacture in the U.S. It's a very easy solution. There's securing the border, like, hey, you Canadian and Mexican punks, why don't you help us with immigration and fentanyl? And then there's kind of this reciprocal trade idea, like establishing mutually equal rules for trade. I'm not saying that like these are mutually exclusive, like you have to do one or the other. But I do find it a little frustrating that there's the explanation for why and what the objective is weeks and months into this threat, to me, is still yet to be explained in any coherent sense. It's just kind of like whatever explanation fits the moment.
I've sort of noticed that as well. I mean, I do recall from Trump's first term, either his first term or when he was campaigning recently, that he would like a world with no tariffs. It's just, has to be tit for tat. And that if they're putting tariffs on our goods, we're at a disadvantage. And the reciprocal ones are just trying to level the field. So it could even be the goal is to get rid of those tariffs altogether. And that, well, it would be better to have none than to have equal ones against each other. But we don't have the choice if they're doing it to us. But I guess that's a fifth explanation that, doesn't contradict.
There's a very confident use of the phrase tit for tat. I prefer boob for bob.
Very good.
But to each his own. You just go for it without. I've always felt weird about saying that. You don't feel that?
Yeah, I didn't think it through, but it worked.
Okay, so what's going to happen? At least short term, stuff's going to cost more, depending on how long we sustain this. Car prices, according to analysts, at least in this report, expected to increase significantly. Analysts say a new car could cost an average of $4,700 more. As I mentioned, I would expect that to kind of be across the board. Whether the car is actually manufactured in the U.S. or not, I would expect across the board increases of varying degrees. But when new cars spike, of course, what happens? Well, everyone looks at a new car and thinks, holy crap, I'm not buying that. Let's see what's available used. And then they start buying up the used cars, and then used car prices spike as well. So Godspeed if you're in the car market in the coming days and weeks, assuming this holds. Home prices are actually expected to increase as well, according to analysts. I would assume that's because of increased material costs. But stuff is just going to cost more. And all of this is on the bet that we can take some of this short-term pain for a more robust American industry in the future, the long-term future. We'll see if that plays out. What is a little bit concerning to me as a consumer and a producer in this economy, I guess, although tariffs don't really threaten my industry yet. We'll see. Do I even have an industry? I make internet content. I don't know. Anyway, what is a little bit concerning to me as a participant in this economy is that the sort of things we're talking about, like restoring American industry, protecting American industry, I do think that there are noble reasons behind those goals. However, you don't really achieve those short term. Things like, hey, help us out with the border, that is a little bit more of like a day switch. Like they agreed to do X, Y, and Z. You want factories here, totally realigning our workforce here. Again, I might agree with those aims. I'm not trying to crap all over this idea. I'm just saying if you have to inflict pain to achieve it, this is not going to be like, okay, suffer a little bit on Tuesday for Friday to be awesome. You're talking about like long years down the road, transforming the economy for a future that is years away. And that does have me a little bit worried.
But it is something we need to do in that, if we really were to deport every illegal in this country, and I know we're not going to get all of them, but it's probably as many as 30 million people. And a lot of people... That
low? That's good news. Yeah.
What, you thought it was higher?
I don't know. Nobody really knows. It could be 100 million.
I was going...
You ever go down to Home Depot? There's at least like 1 million at every one.
I was at the mall and it was like 20% white, and I'm like, what the hell? How is this even possible? Like, I don't. Anyway,
you're like the census guy. You're just calculating demographics everywhere you go.
Counting people and doing some simple division.
Yeah.
But everyone has this delusion that illegals are just picking crops and building houses, although apparently not at a rate to keep up with population.
Yeah.
But they're really working fast food jobs. Like, it's food service is primarily the job that they're doing. And when they leave, like, I'm not going to, a lot of fast food places will go under, but we're going to have a lot of workers who are going to be able to have the opportunities to work real jobs if this revitalization ends up happening. So it's going to be a positive transition. And, it sucks if you own a Popeyes, but it's going to end up being better off for almost everyone.
Dude, there were only like 2 Popeyes in my area, and they're both gone.
Bummer. It's so good.
Well, the thing about Popeyes, and I'm a little bit short on time, but okay, I am a Chick-fil-A fan, all right? I mean, no disrespect to Chick-fil-A, and I can't, because there's going to be one coming to town soon, and I can't wait.
Nice.
Popeyes is very hit or miss for me, but when that spicy sandwich is done to perfection, that's about as excellent a fast food as I've ever had. Problem is, it's like 1 out of 5 sandwiches I got that were actually up to that level.
Yeah, if you average them together. Quality.
Well, then it comes down.
I'm more of a Chick-fil-A. I would say Chick-fil-A is top tier, then Popeye. KFC, I love as I don't know. I love all fast food chicken, honestly.
All right. Well,
anyway,
let's get to Signalgate before I get to our guests. Let's see if we can do this in just a few minutes here. Of course, this was the week of Signal group chat gate. They're still trying to make this a bigger controversy than I think most people think it is. But yes, this was the supposed controversy of the White House bro chat about bombing the Houthis in Yemen. And I think the unfortunate reality for Democrats is that
no one cares!
Even though they're going to try to make it a very serious scandal. It is not a serious scandal. Number one, because it's not criminal, at least as far as we understand it to this point. And number two, because it didn't compromise the mission in Yemen. Nothing really happened negatively. It went off as planned. It's embarrassing for sure. It shouldn't happen for sure. You shouldn't have Jeffrey Goldberg from The Atlantic hanging out in your group chat, just lurking. You don't want that. But just don't do that again and move on. I think it's highly doubtful that Trump is going to fire anybody over this. He's not talking like he's going to. And the attention on it is going to move on to the next outrage this week, probably tariffs or something else like that. But I did get a kick out of Sonny Hostin's reaction on The View this week. Even though this scandal is fundamentally about National Security Advisor Mike Walz, who openly admits he organized the chat, he inadvertently brought Jeffrey Goldberg into the chat, they want to make it Pete Hegseth's fault as defense secretary because they hate Pete the most and they want Pete's scalp. So it has to be Pete's fault. So actually, this is all Pete's fault. And actually, Pete Hegseth is the real DEI hire.
Pete Hegseth, what sort of example is he leading as the Secretary of Defense? Is he leading for no example? And who did he replace? He replaced a 4-star general from the United States Army, Lloyd Austin, an African-American. Pete Hegseth, he was a Fox News host, but he was also a former captain in the Army National Guard. He served in the military, but he lacks senior military experience or any national security
experience. What about his time on Fox News now?
When you're
forgetting about he was the Fox News
He was a Fox News host. So my point is Lloyd Austin served in the military for 41 years. When you replace excellence by mediocrity, that is what you get. And so when they want to talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, giving people advantages that don't deserve advantages, what we really need to do is reframe that. It's giving people advantages because of their excellence when they haven't had the opportunities before.
I guess it's cool we succeeded in making DEI pejorative, but that's not the proper use. Yeah.
The funniest part of that clip to me is easy to miss. Sonny Hostin introduces Pete Hegseth as a Fox News host and former captain in the Army National Guard. And she mentions a couple other points. And then Joy Behar, with a high degree of self-satisfaction, comes in. Oh, you forgot his time at Fox News. Got him. No, she did not. That was actually the leading point that she went with. You just weren't listening because you were thinking, what if I were to parrot the only squawking talking point that I have? Then Joy Behar got lost in her own anticipation of the only point about Pete Hegseth that any of these people have to make that she didn't realize the point was already made. It was great.
I mean, the best part of this scandal is there was, so I can't remember who it was in the chat. They basically wrote like, should we bomb the Houthis? And then someone wrote back, American flag emoji, fire emoji, thumbs up emoji.
I think that was after. That wasn't an emoji reaction to.
I might have gotten the order flipped, but yes, that was the best part.
But to the point. Oh, Lloyd Austin has been a general for 1 million years, and Pete Hegseth wasn't in senior leadership. Yes, that is the point. Talk to guys who have been in during the last decade. I'm not saying generals. I'm talking grunts. I'm talking guys on the ground. They will tell you almost universally that the disconnect between Defense Department leadership and the mission reality is gigantic. The generals have become politicians. They're not soldiers. They're not Marines. They're just politicians. Lloyd Austin was another politician. The guy sat around D.C. offices for decades. He was not in the trenches. That's the problem. That's why the Hegseth selection was made. And we've swapped excellence for mediocrity. What exactly was Lloyd Austin's excellence? Okay,
disappear randomly?
Right, he got sick and left the job, and then his deputy defense secretary, who didn't even know about it, was also on vacation in Puerto Rico. That happened last year. You had the botched Afghanistan withdrawal that needs no further explanation. Was that Lloyd Austin excellence? You have a disastrous vaccine mandate that kicked hundreds or thousands of good people out of the military. You have abysmal recruitment numbers across the branches because no capable young man wants anything to do with these delusional politics disguised as military service. So what was the Lloyd Austin excellence? It's just like he's been there for a long time.
I mean, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the recruitment numbers have started surging under Hegseth.
I would assume they probably have.
It's clear what the people want, and it's just demoralizing when, I don't know, you're risking your life for your country and they're focusing on trans stuff. I get it's a small percentage of your day, but just to know you're working for those people has got to be horrible.
Yeah, and potentially risking your life for them, like you said. Yeah. And of course, ironically, the number one reason Lloyd Austin was selected by Joe Biden, and I don't even say this to dismiss his military career, I'm just saying it is absolutely a fact that Lloyd Austin was chosen, at least in part, because of his race. If he was, in fact, a mediocre white guy, like Sonny Hostin is describing, no chance he's selected by Joe Biden. The reason he was selected, just like Kamala Harris and the rest of them, a DEI hire is to me, it's such a cringe sort of generic accusation now because it's kind of lost the meaning to the extent that even Sonny Hostin is making the point. But does anybody really believe that if Lloyd Austin was just a regular white guy, that he would have been defense secretary? Nobody believes that.
No, and all the people who say they want better representation in industry, anytime those liberals are in charge, it's white people that are disproportionate, they're underrepresented by a statistically significant margin. So, I mean, I know everyone knows this, but it just means, diversity just means fewer white people.
Yes.
Yeah.
That used to be a conspiracy theory. Now they just say it. But anyway, I got to go get my guest Liberty Doll. So I'm going to take a break and I will catch up with you on the other side in about a half hour. All right.
Sounds good, man.
Okay. See you in a
Later.
bit.
Stand back and stand by.
My guest tonight is Liberty Doll, a self-described libertarian and wannabe homesteader, although I learned that for the first time today. How's the homestead going, by the way?
It's going okay, I guess. All my seedlings just got drowned outside when it rained very suddenly earlier today, so we'll see tomorrow.
That's better than wannabe. Those are real results and real skills, so congratulations.
Thanks.
Find her on YouTube, youtube.com/LibertyDoll, linked in the description. And of course, thank you for being here. It's been a very long time. I'm glad to have you back.
It has. Yeah, I'm happy to be back, and I'm digging that little intro music that you had in there. I was like rocking out back here.
Oh, it's I have a lot of Australian friends who do a lot of work for me. So my show is a secret Australian production, and all that music is by a guy on the beach somewhere in like Northeast Australia who does cool stuff for me. I shouldn't say some guy. Chris Gard is his name, and he deserves recognition. His music is linked in the description for you. Anyway, I assume most of my audience is familiar with you, but for those who aren't, what is the Liberty Doll story?
Oh my goodness, the Liberty Doll story. Well, the Liberty Doll story is that one day in 2010, she heard about our Lord and Savior, Ron Paul. After being a Obama voting liberal feminist. And
well, we have that in common.
It's awful. It's awful. Do you know I almost minored in women's studies in college? Bless it. Anyway.
We don't have that in common. All right, I have a point.
And so I discovered libertarianism. And when you first learn about all the awful things the government is doing, like you want to tell everyone about it because you're like, oh my God, how do people not know about this? They need to know about this. They need to see the light. So of course you tell everyone, you post over on Facebook, all your friends and
you
your
started
family.
Evangelizing, yeah.
Yeah, and then eventually you're like, you know what? The whole world needs to know. So I started a Facebook page and a blog, and it was pretty successful. But I started getting these emails in from folks being like, man, I wish that I could have your content but not have to read it. So that led me to YouTube. It started out pretty slow, but eventually ended up on a weekly podcast with some folks from the Gary Johnson campaign and realized like, oh, maybe I actually have enough to say to have a weekly video or two. And then I started uploading more. And then one day, Tom Woods was like, you know what? You should do this full time. And I was like, thank you, Tom Woods. And COVID happened and it kind of forced me to do it full time. And now here I am.
The Gary Johnson part is more embarrassing than the feminism part, I'd have to say. But I think you're forgiven. Did he learn?
He was not the best.
Did he learn what Aleppo is? Although I don't think I knew what Aleppo was either. But. All right. Well, big story this week in the Supreme Court or at the Supreme Court. They upheld the Biden era 2021 ghost gun regulations. So a lot of people in my audience are gun people. They know what it means when they hear the propaganda term ghost gun. Mm-hmm. We're talking in this context of this case, we're talking about those 80% frame handgun kits sold by a company called Polymer 80. But can you explain to a layman what exactly that is?
Okay, so basically for the entire history and tradition of the United States, which is important because we also have the Bruin ruling that came out of the Supreme Court that said you have to follow the text and history of the Second Amendment. For pretty much all of American history, it has been perfectly legal to make your own firearms at home for private use. And some people like to do that with 80% kits, which means you will basically get a frame and receiver that is 80% completed. You have to mill a few things, drill a few holes, bada bing, bada boom. Now you have your legal firearm. Well, the ATF came out actually in, I think, 2022 and decided to redefine what a frame and receiver is to include those 80% lowers. And their argument, frames and receivers, and their argument was, hey, these are things that could become firearms with X amount of work, and so therefore they are firearms. It ping-ponged back and forth in the courts for a while. Some people agreed, some people didn't. The rule was put on hold, it was put back in place, et cetera, and then the Supreme Court just came out with their decision siding with the ATF, which surprised a lot of people. Because as I said, we have something called the Bruin ruling, where the Supreme Court previously said, look, like it is the onus is on the government to prove that any gun control they come up with follows the American tradition of the Second Amendment and firearm ownership and follows the text of the Second Amendment. This obviously doesn't do that, but they argued, Well, the majority opinion argued that this falls under the purview of the 1968 Gun Control Act, basically.
Yeah, I found that to be really interesting. So I haven't followed the full history of this case, but reading about it now, the people who challenged the rule that came out of the Biden administration was, hey, look, ghost guns, your polymer 80 kits, those are guns, so you need a serial number, you need a background check if you're going to transfer them. The challenge initially may have been on Second Amendment grounds and maybe a Bruin type angle. Ultimately, when they brought this to the Supreme Court, and there's a woman named was it Jennifer Vanderstock, and she's teamed up with a lot of these gun rights advocacy organizations. But the argument was that it was a violation of the Administrative Procedures Act. Right. And what's interesting about that argument, it's not a Second Amendment argument. It's an argument that grants the legitimacy of the Gun Control Act. They're just saying, no, you're misapplying the Gun Control Act, which requires you to get a background check and requires serial numbers for firearm transfers and all that stuff. They're saying, no, that's a legit law. That's fine. It's just the Gun Control Act was not written to cover 80% kits was the argument. And I wonder, did they do that because they thought that was the most likely to succeed? I mean, I think clearly everybody who was working on this case believes that you have a Second Amendment right to build your own gun, to use an 80% kit to do it. But what are your thoughts on the strategy of it moving away from a Second Amendment angle and into like this technical legalese type stuff?
I mean, I don't know why they chose to go that way. I am not a lawyer and I'm not a Supreme Court justice, so I really have no idea why they went with that angle. I'm sure that it was some sort of tactical decision. I did find it interesting that even in the majority opinion, Neil Gorsuch said, well, his argument was basically, well, this rule from the ATF is legitimate because it's not a ban.
Oh, I didn't see that part. He said it's legit because they're not banning the product. It's just you have to jump through the regulatory hoops to buy it.
Basically, and Sotomayor, she said, well, these were just created to evade the Gun Control Act, and there's no legitimacy at all.
Kind of correct. I mean, that I'll give you that one, old Sonia.
I mean, sure.
You make laws and people go right up to the edge, but that's the point is the laws do have an edge.
Right.
And these were formerly outside of them, or outside that
And it's funny because, Gorsuch also, so one of the points brought up as well was like, okay, well, if you say that these 80% kits are firearms, legally define them that way because they could become firearms, well, what is to stop gun control people from being like, oh, well, we need to ban or even more regulate semi-autos because they could become full auto firearms with XYZ amount of work. And it's funny because the majority opinion was like, oh, well, that can't happen because that's not the definition. And you can't apply that logic to AR-15s being regulated as machine guns because this is what the Supreme Court says. And it's like, buddy, ever since Bruin came down, all New York and New Jersey and California and Maryland and Rhode Island and Massachusetts have been doing is pushing the envelope on Bruin and just blowing right past it and ignoring it completely.
Yeah, I should mention, I know I mentioned that Gorsuch wrote the majority opinion, but 7-2, the only dissents are Thomas and Alito. Mm-hmm. And so we can throw a lot of shade at Gorsuch for this, but don't forget that Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, who else am I forgetting? Who else signed on to this? Who's the third?
Ketanji Brown.
Well, of course, yeah, but who's the other person? Oh, Chief Justice Roberts. How could I forget?
Right.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. And that point was raised by Cam Edwards here in Bearing Arms. Like, okay, if the point is that the point that these ghost gun kits, these 80% frame kits are easily convertible to guns and therefore are guns. Well, yeah, I mean, like an AR lower is just as easily convertible to become a machine gun, but it is not because machine gun has a definition in federal law, and that's more than one round per trigger function, which the semi-auto configuration does not satisfy. I guess Gorsuch would say, well, the Gun Control Act says that if the weapon is easily convertible to a gun, then it is a gun. Thomas had an interesting counterpoint on that too, because it's true that the Gun Control Act does say that. Where's Thomas's counterpoint? I can't remember. Oh, here's Thomas's quote. So Section 921, blah, blah, blah. That's the Gun Control Act. The definition of firearm includes any weapon that will or is designed to or may readily be converted to expel a projectile by any action of explosive. So a gun, it shoots an object through an explosive. Thus, while an object that may be readily converted into a gun qualifies as a firearm, if that object is already a weapon. Now, what's interesting about Gorsuch is he's saying these Polymer 80 kits, they are weapons. So that's the difference between Gorsuch and Thomas, is Thomas is looking at a Polymer 80 frame and saying, that's not a weapon. It just has potential to become a weapon. In the same way, if you walk into a garage and there are tires and a car chassis and an engine block, you don't say, wow, cool car, bro. You say, hey, man, what are you building? That could become a cool car in the future.
Right.
So the difference is whether they view that frame that you see on the screen or that potential frame as a weapon. And Gorsuch is saying, well, any observer would call that a weapon. I would not. Take that piece of plastic to somebody who doesn't know anything about guns. They're not going to say, hey, man, get that gun out of here. It's very scary. They're going to say, well, what is that, gun parts? What do we got?
Right. Well, and he also said that basically the entire argument of the lawsuit was invalid because, well, all of these things might not be guns, but some of them are. It was such a bizarre argument.
Every once in a while, Gorsuch has some weird ones. I mean, and a few years ago, he interpreted gender identity as protected under the Civil Rights Act or whatever it was. I can't remember. But my other problem with Gorsuch is technical. You see on your screen there, it's like, well, these frames are so easily converted. All you have to do is just remove these plastic tabs. All right, I'm not going to say it's hard, but it is more involved than just that. You got to file those down with a relatively high degree of precision. Otherwise, that slide is not going to operate as intended. Then there's also additional milling inside to fit the barrel, the recoil spring and all that stuff. Then you got to drill the holes so that you can put the trigger pack in there and fit the rails on for the slide to operate. This is me admitting that I legally did this once and did a bad job, and it was hard, Neil Gorsuch, okay? It is not as easy as you're describing, but I did get it done, fully in compliance with federal law.
And it's not like some gangbanger is going to sit there and do that. He's going to go and buy some gun out of somebody's trunk for $200.
That's what I hate. Is it's always like, oh well, gun crime without serial numbers is spiked in Chicago. I'm sure it has. Now, are there a bunch of gangsters sitting around with Polymer 80 kits, or are they just filing off the serials on existing Glocks? What are we talking about?
I mean, they've done studies on this is the thing, and they have found that criminals overwhelmingly go for cheap, used firearms that can just basically be bought for $100, a couple $100, and then tossed away.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, the other interesting angle here, of course, is I know that we're early in the administration and all that. But whose name is on the very top of this lawsuit as petitioner? That would be your current Attorney General Pam Bondi, who was supposedly given an assignment to review Second Amendment protections under the Trump administration. I know that the Trump administration came into kind of the tail end of this case. And I guess it was probably already argued at the Supreme Court under Biden, was it not? I don't know the history here. What I'm saying is, why can't they just walk away and say, no, we're not doing that?
Well, so hypothetically, they could. Right now, there's a little bit of controversy because Pam Bondi basically was given the assignment to go over all of these Biden-era rules and regulations and the litigation and figure out what's violating the Second Amendment, the report on that. The deadline for that report has come and gone. She got an extension.
It's with the truckload of Epstein documents. It's coming soon.
And we were basically told by Trump multiple times that these rules would be reversed. They'd be nixed from the books. And here it is, just about April, and they're all still there.
Okay. And I know that's the thing is, now maybe Trump will never prosecute it. The thing is, I don't know what Polymer 80 is going to do. Like, not prosecuting people is one thing, but Polymer 80, I figured they'd probably be out of this area of business. I also saw them selling these kits, though, like in an act of rebellion, or at least people were saying they were.
Yeah, I don't know. Polymer 80 is a little bit tough because I remember there was a case. They were being hit on all sides. There was a bunch of lawsuits coming out of New York, and it basically through these lawsuits, they ended up giving up customer data.
Oh.
Not great.
Giving up
That
as
was a
in they
thing.
were the ones who released it, not they got hacked or like they got it stolen by the government or something?
It was requested or something,
Oh,
and they were
God.
like,
I didn't even hear that.
here.
Well, that's okay. My data's probably in there, but I already admitted to purchasing their product, so that's fine. And the problem, like, even if Trump were to walk away from this and say, sell all the 80% frames you want, you don't need a serial, you don't need a background check, which I think he should do. Mm-hmm. The problem is the Supreme Court has now laid the groundwork for the next Democrat to come into office and be like, haha, the rules have changed once again, so no more Polymer 80 kits for you. Right. And that's what's going to happen the next time a Democrat gets in office, even if Trump walked away from this.
Absolutely. And I love some of the things that he's doing and some of the stuff that he is getting rid of by the executive order pen, but we really shouldn't be ruling by executive order, and the next guy is just going to come in and reverse all of it.
Yeah. And it's been a mixed record for Trump on guns, but I've talked that to death myself, so I want to leave some time for some stories that you brought to my attention, including, I guess, Alvin Bragg's response to at least similar themes. Now, if the 80% kits are out, of course, that doesn't eliminate your ability to 3D print a Glock frame and make a gun through it in a similar homemade way. But Alvin Bragg is trying to, stop the 3D print? You can't print that, is what he wants them to say.
Right. Okay. So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in New York, and some of the bills that they have going through the New York pipeline have been introduced in previous years. But of course, there is the big Luigi case. So now they're like, oh my God, we need to regulate these ghost guns. And I promised that I won't give you my dissertation.
Luigi would make ghost guns cool to them. Is it confirmed that he used one? Did he use like I forget what exactly he used.
Yeah, I am not big in like the 3D printed space, so I don't know what exactly it was. It was a Glock clone.
But it was printed. It was a 3D printed gun.
Yeah, that's the consensus at this point. I may or may not be in like 4 or 5 Reddits about the case. But anyways, so New York, they're trying to make it so that you need a background check complete with fingerprints to buy a 3D printer. And there are company, yeah.
Of course, this is the direction it goes.
Of course. There are a few companies out there that are currently working on software for 3D printers that would report you to the police and automatically shut off the printer if they detect anything gun-shaped or any gun parts, or even find that you're downloading these files or have them on a USB stick. And now Alvin Bragg is writing letters to 3D printing companies and being like, well, you need to have this software on your printer or else, basically.
How would I assume? Okay, let's play this out. Like they ship their products with this software that says now that's too gun shaped. Don't do that, or we're going to report you. Mm-hmm. How would a person get? Now, 3D print, and I'm not a great 3D printing mind, as you can probably tell. But I imagine that the only way that the 3D printer would be able to communicate that you're doing this is if it is connected to the internet. Now, of course, you probably got to download the plans from the internet to actually print the object. But what's going to happen if, say, you disconnect, you have the plans, you disconnect the printer from the internet? Is there just no override on it? Like, I can only print if you're connected to the internet. Sorry.
I don't know. It one of the features is that if it detects anything gun-shaped, it just shuts the printer off.
There's got to be, like, I got to think the clever minds behind the FGC 9 and so forth could find a way around that.
I'm sure. But it's just, there's 2 different companies that are working on that software right now.
What heroes?
And it's like, well, I'm pretty sure that the plans were ruled as protected by the First Amendment. I mean, they can keep trying, but what's going to happen is people who are interested in these printers for printing firearms are just not going to buy the printers with that software.
Yeah, I guess unless they sell, or they say you can't sell a printer in the state of New York that doesn't have the software. I could see them
I'm sure they'll try.
trying to do that. God.
They were, I believe it was New York as well, that at one point was trying to, it was either New York or New Jersey, was trying to pass a law that would ban 3D printers completely, but with the definition they provided would also ban computers.
Of course, yeah. We're headed to
that was a year or two ago.
Yeah, we're headed toward that in the future as well. You also sent me this about ATF facial recognition.
Yes.
A scandal, something related to that, but I haven't even looked at this. So what's this about?
Okay, so this is a long story. Actually, I just recorded a video on this earlier tonight. So basically, there was a Government Accountability Office report that came out in 2021 that revealed that the ATF has been using facial recognition software and AI to quote unquote track leads on people who they thought might be breaking the law or might potentially threaten a quote unquote soft target since 2019. And it's not just the ATF, it's the FBI, it's DHS, it's all these alphabet agencies. But not only were they using this software, they didn't provide anybody any training on it. They didn't teach anybody how to interpret the results. They didn't show anybody what photos would or would not be appropriate. And it turned out that there were higher up ATF officials that didn't even know that this software was in use, allegedly.
I don't know. That kind of tracks. Under Dettelbach, this was happening. They didn't know anything under him.
They found that 7 of these alphabet agencies alone, including the ATF, had conducted 60,000 searches of people using this facial recognition software before they provided anybody any training. There was no accountability, no oversight, nothing.
I'm not even sure I understand. So they, like, and as a practical example, they think you're a suspect in a crime or something like that. They take a picture of you and just run it through their software to find more pictures of you? Or what are they actually doing? What are they trying to identify?
Well, in one case, this was actually with the New Jersey State Police. The Attorney General mentioned this during an interview in 2020, and it was just like a little blip on the radar that he mentioned in passing. But they had this guy who they got in a child predator sting, and they took his photo and ran it through the software to determine if he owned guns.
Okay. Like, as in, how would they even do that? Like, did he ever post a picture of himself with guns or something like that? Is that what they're...
It didn't go that far, but I mean, it is curious considering that New Jersey does have a permitting system and ATF doesn't have a registry that isn't searchable. So it is curious. So the ATF now claims that they don't use this anymore. They say they washed their hands of it in 2023. But then when they were investigating the Trump assassination attempt, well, it turns out that they took photos of the guy and sent them off to the ATF to use with their facial recognition software.
Well, but that guy is the least photographed person in the history of the world. There's only one terrible photo of him from the agent who was above him. And,
right.
Yeah, that guy's complete mystery. Nobody's ever took a picture of him in the history of time.
Well, he wasn't the most photogenic guy either.
But okay, maybe. Yeah.
So, so this is the software that the ATF claims that they don't use anymore. And they're kind of half right, because really what they're doing is they're outsourcing it to other agencies. But they have like 4 or 5 different AI programs with facial recognition that scrapes through social media, mugshots, news articles, all these different things. So now Andy Biggs is demanding an investigation into this to see, okay, like any internal documents that the ATF has, the trainings that they have, all the communications that they have with other agencies and these programs, their contracts, if anyone's ever been disciplined for using it inappropriately, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the deadline is like April 10th or something like that.
Okay, so maybe we'll get a little bit of investigation, but
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the ATF doesn't really like to answer to investigations, but every once in a while they do you just gave us a boatload of terrible information.
I can't wait for that Cash Patel plan to take ATF agents and reassign them to the FBI. That will fix it. No, maybe I don't know. I guess maybe
or
it's an
joining them with the
improvement,
DEA. I really don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, well, could be worse. Maybe that's the motto of the coming year. Could be worse. I've had worse. Anyway, top of the hour. I'll thank you for your time. It flew by, but that's my guest, Liberty Doll. You can find her links in the description. I've got YouTube. I've got X. Is there anywhere else you'd like to direct people to find your material?
I am on Rumble.
Just what's the channel name? Liberty Doll?
Probably.
Well, something like that.
If you search it on there,
you'll find it.
You'll find it. And I did just start a TikTok last week because there was someone that was like stealing my videos and putting them up and asking people for money. So I was like, I guess I have to make a TikTok.
You gotta, claim your own market over there, I guess. I don't operate on TikTok. I don't even know how it works. I thought it was going to be banned by now, but it's still not, I guess.
Yeah, gun stuff is supposed to be banned, so I don't imagine it will be there for very long. But.
Well, Godspeed. All right, well, thanks for stopping by. It was great to catch up, and I appreciate it. So I'll catch you next time.
Bye.
All right, there she goes, Liberty Doll. Find her links in the description, and I'm going to go get Matt back, and I will be right back.
Stand back and stand by.
Were you bouncing around too? I guess some other guy's
so
music is the best part of my show, but that's okay. Chris Card does a great job.
I had to make sure it wasn't me for a second, but that's the kind of music I listened to when I was just on YouTube. Before,
it's linked in the description for you if you'd like to check out more of it. Good. We got to catch up with Super Chatters, and there's a bunch of stuff that I had planned on getting to before Liberty Doll, but we had so much to talk about that I'll have to Jen Psaki circle back to it. All right. Over on YouTube, Tortuga. Shout out to one Mrs. Tortuga on this. Our 18th anniversary, and my apologies for having to put up with my crap. Porcelain is the symbol for this year. What does one get? A toilet. Is that true? Is that like a real thing, or is that just a bit?
I'm not an expert.
I don't know if porcelain has a real symbology this year, but thank you, Tortuga, and happy anniversary to you and Mrs. Tortuga. Long Dong John, Matt and I once went through TSA. I never felt so violated in my life and went to sit in the shower, and Matt looked happy and satisfied and went outside to have a cigarette. All right, well. Going through TSA frequently, I was given the full experience. And then that Tenet, Russia stuff happened, and I was accused of being a unwitting Russian agent and all that, and I had to fly a few weeks after that, and I thought, they're not going to let me through TSA. I'm a Russian agent now. That was the one time they didn't feel anything. They didn't grab anything. They just let me through. Right this way, sir. All right, I guess I got the proper Putin treatment through TSA.
Have you ever gone through TSA in another country?
No, I got to get your mic closer to your face.
You don't have to get it, I guess. Yeah. But it's a pleasurable experience. It's not even. It's a bizarre. I was in London in January, and we're about to go through, and I'm not going to describe the person, but let's just say they would be stereotyped as not giving very good customer service in America. and okay. I walk up to them.
Sunny Hostin excellence is what this employee displayed.
In that direction.
Yes.
But I walk up, and the first she goes, "Hello, love. How can I be of assistance to you?" Every single person was the friendliest person I've ever met. And I don't know. I feel like we're deliberately hiring. I feel like airports are almost like a jobs program for people who can't work anywhere else, because that's how it feels in America.
Yeah, there's been a lot of unnecessary grip strength that I've endured in my experience. I don't know where they're finding these people, but they're often a little too eager. Mm-hmm. Long Dong John. Oh, that's the one I just got. Thank you, Mr. John. VV. We, as in my wife and I, we're finally coming around to buying our first firearm. It's purely for home protection. What are best practices? Keep gun by bedside or in a safe in the bedroom? Best first gun for purchase, easiest to handle, etc. Please start us off. Thanks. Well, first of all, thank you for your support for the show.
I am not going to be niggardly.
And it's difficult to talk specific gun security practices. VV, I know you can you have my email contact. So if you'd like me to get a little more specific, I will. I'll handle that by email. Without describing my own setup and personal choices, I would say that if you have a firearm that is for home security purposes, it needs to be accessible immediately when a threat is presented to your home. So think about that. Also, I'm in a situation now where I have young kids at home, so accessibility has to be paired with security. You have to figure that out. But if you were grabbing a gun that is great, like do all, home defense, carry, whatever you need a gun for, even though I was not a Glock guy when I started down my gun journey in like 2018, it's hard to beat. It's hard to beat for its versatility, the availability of parts, the customization, just the fact that the gun works. And it's perfectly viable for home defense. It's a great carry gun. I would say that if you get yourself like a Glock 19, that is about as good of a gun entry point as one could find. Now, it's not necessarily what I choose to carry on a daily basis, but if you could only have one handgun for do-all, it's really hard to me to argue against the Glock 19, even though I was stupid and picked pretty guns when I made my first selection. You have any, well, you're in New Jersey. The guns are banned there.
Oh, I've seen like 3 guns in my life in the state outside of police officers. There's no gun culture at all.
So if you want easy property to raid, just head on over to Mapple.
Yeah, my place it's completely open.
Yeah, thank
I'll
you.
leave the door unlocked.
Best to you and your wife. I appreciate it. Esoterica Unbound.
Thank you.
This gun kit case or a future one was destined to fail. Unlike bump stocks, it comes down to how close to the line is too close to the line. If the producers won this one, they would keep moving closer until they lost. I suppose that's true. And when I say that like Sotomayor has a point that these things were made just to toe the line of the law, correct. Because the law is a boundary and people are going to go right up to that boundary. But you're right, it does work both ways. That if this was, well, I mean, we've been doing this for a long time. That is to say, like the 80% kit and the 80% frame and lower, that has been the standard per the ATF's approval for many, many years. I think what's frustrating about this isn't that the line was drawn. What's frustrating is the line just gets changed arbitrarily, not by act of Congress, but by ATF reinterpretation. So I'll take your point that like producers of these products are certainly going up to the line, and wherever the line is drawn, they're gonna find that, and but yeah, I mean, I don't think that's just true in guns. I think it's true in pretty much everything. Lines get drawn, people go right up to the line, and that's why the lines exist. And the lines have to be defined by a process, not just like a new guy came into power and he says, no, we're going to change everything.
It's really my only chance at ever owning a gun is by 3D printing one or getting a ghost gun. So,
getting a gun? You mean manufacturing your own ghost gun in full compliance with federal law?
Obviously.
No one would ever transfer such a thing, you psychopath. You can't put me. Jeez.
I don't know anything about guns. Like I know my knowledge of guns is just of gun control and all the stats on why gun control doesn't work. But when it comes to the actual like guns themselves and functionality, I'm the kind of person who would make the same errors that would get a pro gun control liberal made fun of, even though I'm not on that side.
The difference is I'm sure you don't pretend to have knowledge that you don't. These so-called experts at Moms Demand Action and everywhere else. The funniest named organization of all time, by the way. What were they thinking? Moms Demand Action.
I don't know why people put mom in a group like it's a qualification on policy. Like I'm very pro mom, but I'm like, having a kid doesn't make you an expert on gun policy.
No.
I don't know why anyone would think it would.
Knuckle Hunkybuck, our friend who we discussed earlier, no TV and no beer make Knuckle something something. Well, I'm very sorry to hear it.
I'm a knucklehead at times.
But it sounds like it's for the best, my man, and all the best to you. Esoterica Unbound. So we're not actually going to give an altar call this week. Sorry, Nuck, couldn't help myself. Seriously, though, Godspeed in your treatment, and you will be in our prayers. Esoterica Unbound also adds, the term I typically use for the Defense Department corporate climbers like Lloyd Austin is Pentagon rung monkeys. You can't say monkey. We're going to get to that later in the show. That is wildly inappropriate in this context. Lloyd Austin is not ape-like in any way. I want it to be very clear. In this case, my lefty friends probably find that problematic, but that's because they're racist. Yeah, you're right. Well, as we'll find out later, like, I don't know. I don't know what we're supposed to do about apes and monkeys in the future. As far as I understand, we have to just nuke them from this earth, because if a black person sees one, it's over. They have to be exterminated.
Did you ever see that scandal in South Africa where there was an ad and it was a black kid with a T-shirt that said like "coolest monkey in the jungle"?
Yeah, I remember that.
But his mom, they were all fine with it, and then like white people, I think only white people really had a problem with it. Funnily enough, and actually probably black people in America, but. I don't know. There's just no way to win with certain things, and they're the ones inferring the racial connotation.
Yeah, monkeys are banned. So, you can't. It's going to become a slur on its own. Like you can't even discuss chimpanzees. All right, it has to be bleeped. I got a story of similar theme later in the Hoax Hate segment. Friedrich Krebs von Krassenstein. You'd be surprised, while working as a bail bondsman, I pulled quite a few assembled illegal polymer 80s off of people. Well, maybe it's more than I realize. The younger 20-year-old criminals tend to have polymer 80s. Older folks have stolen stuff. All right, so maybe the gangs do have some guy in their garage, like just filing down those 80% frames all day long and shipping them out to the gangbangers to go exert their wrath on the mean streets. But thank you. I appreciate it. And all the best to you, man. Okay, let me get a few. Let me hop over to Odyssey. Blankets over there sending me great memes as always. One of them is the Studio Ghibli stuff. Man, everyone was Studio Ghibli'd this week. Did you get into that?
Yeah, I made one of me. I don't know. It's a funny meme. I mean, it'll die out in a week, but it's. I just love the White House's take on it.
Oh, the one with the like fentanyl dealing fat
dealer, then
Central American woman or wherever she's from.
Yeah. People were like, this is just what finally draws, where we finally crosses the line after the past decade.
Yeah, I'm sure lots were very offended and changed their political persuasion on account of that meme for sure. Blanket says, Matt, what do you think about what Jasmine said about Donald's, about dating someone who is white? I didn't hear it. Oh, was she talking to Byron Donalds or because he has a white wife?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for me to comment without hearing. Do you know what she said? I didn't hear the commentary.
Actually, I was thinking of Daniel Cameron when I was thinking. I don't. It's not confirmed yet. I'm not 100% sure his wife is white, but no. I'm assuming her comment was something along the lines of the skinfolk, kinfolk kind of
something like that. I bet Byron Donalds know where the white bitch is at. I bet he does.
I met him at Fox once, and it was so funny because. Like, I get up from the chairman to go walk over, and he extends his hand and goes, "Oh, I'm Byron Donalds," like as if I wouldn't know that.
Well, that's humility. I like that.
Yeah. But a lot of the famous, like Steve Forbes did that to me once, and I'm like, I actually said I know. That's what she's.
Yeah, I have to punt on that one just because I don't know exactly what she said. But if Jasmine Crockett said it, it's probably hilarious.
Insane, yeah,
and insane. I'm glad to see her rise as one of the big faces in the Democrat Party because it ensures their continued demise. Okay, I'm going to catch a couple on Rumble, and then we'll get back into the news. iBot, thank you, iBot. What's iBot? This is why not going to be niggardly. That's why we need Knuckle Hunkybuck here. Is he corrects me every time? It's LBot. It is not iBot. It's LBot. But I need to commit that to memory. Thank you, LBot. Yakko 1977. Rumor is the DOJ wants to merge the ATF with the DEA. I don't care what three-letter acronym is used, but 2A trampling antics need to end. Also, the states that infringe on the 2A need to be defunded. Yeah. I do find it frustrating that Pam Bondi has been given the assignment of reviewing ATF infringements and is instead, at least tangentially, defending ATF infringements before the Supreme Court. This is not what anybody in the gun community voted for, of course, even if you like some of the other things that are going on with the Trump administration. Hopefully wiser minds will prevail, but they didn't necessarily the first time around either. I mean, the bump stock nonsense was an invention of the Trump administration. I think it was one of the worst things that he did. And now we're carrying on with similar things of just rewriting the law from the executive and treating Americans as criminals for having legal property, or at least property that they owned that was legal to own yesterday. Now they have it today, and potentially they're criminals.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I think like we're never getting those Epstein files, are we?
No, they're still in the truck, and the truck is so large that nobody can unload it. There's no person strong. There's no forklift strong enough for all those documents. They're still working on the technology necessary to lift them in and out of the truck. Reliable sources say.
Unfortunate.
Compound fracture. Here's hoping KHB can get the help he needs and maybe get promoted to the co-host rotation when he returns. Knuckle Hunkybuck. Didn't really make sense to have separate co-host for Superchats anymore. Yeah, as things come in, as the show develops, I think about like, okay, you tried this piece, you move it this way. Like as they merge, does that make sense? And I agree, like that particular role maybe had run its course, or maybe we fit something in this way or that. But yeah, he'll be back in some way to at least give us an update, and we'll go from there. So, the door's open, and we'll figure out what's appropriate down the line. And I appreciate your well-wishing for him. Spirit of Lexington, tariffs absolutely affect your industry, Commentator 6. You import all your takes from Russia. That's true. You got me there.
Shot.
Joe Mobley, love your show, Matt. Hope you're doing well, brother. Get these Rumble rants going, or you're doomed to a life of faggotry. Well, you can say faggotry on Rumble rants, so that's nice. Hope you're doing well, man. I appreciate your well-wishing, and of course, I remember being on your show a while back, and send me an email. Let's connect again sometime. Appreciate it. Corey Trevor, 98. Speaking of crash outs, did you catch Brittany Venti on X this weekend dropping uncensored hard R's all over her timeline? I didn't, but I heard about that. And then she deleted everything. That part I did not hear. Guess she only gets the N-word pass because she's a mulatto. I did hear about the posting. I didn't hear about the rest. Did she delete them, or did Lord Musk compel her to delete them? I don't know. You heard anything about that?
No, I got to go find read these.
Find Brittany Venti's X account. See if there are any N's remaining.
I'll see if anyone reported on her or put on like Kiwi Farms or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Corey Trevor, 98. Oh, that was the one I just wrote or read. Thank you, Corey. Ginger Ninja, part 1. I'm very encouraged to see many personal relationships and online friends coming to faith in Christ. It's the most important thing. Everyone who makes that decision in a unique place, everyone makes that decision in a unique place, and their walk will look different. Don't sweat the small stuff. If it makes your old social group awkward, that's okay. If your direction in life changes, good. God bless you, and we wish you nothing but the best. Well, thank you, sir.
We love you. You're very special.
And I agree. The path is primary. Those who walk with you should seek those who walk with you on the path, of course, and not be afraid to move on from those who choose not to. And I say that as someone who chose not to formerly in my past life. It doesn't mean that they're all terrible people who should be condemned. It just means that there is a proper trajectory for your life, and it is a path that is wise to choose. And the sooner you choose it, probably the better your life will be. So, wise words indeed. GR, Hamerigger. Thank you, GR. I'm glad you're back. I know we had kind of an interesting exchange on Wednesday, but I appreciate your willingness to come back and chime in. I love Liberty Doll. Great interview and improvement on Wednesday night's failure. That loser has been complaining all over the internet. Well, he's entitled to his opinion. And, speaking of redemption arcs, GR, maybe we can have like a Stephen and GR debate sequence again. I think that might be fun. I don't know. I appreciate your support for the show. Spirit of Lexington. Hope Knuckle Hunkybuck keeps his faith after he works through these issues. Some of the things he said last week were true, like how ultimately everything besides finding God is secondary, even rights and freedom. Yeah, well, yeah. Just because he believes, or the doctors believe, or whatever the case is, that he had an episode, doesn't mean that everything he said is quackery, nonsense, kookery. There's a lot of moral truth to that. That is to say that what things are good and what things are bad is made according to some sort of framework for judgment. We all have that, whether we admit that or not. Where does that come from? Now, I would say it comes from God. I think Knuckle Hunkybuck, upon his revelation, would say that it comes from God. Wise people, in my opinion, recognize and acknowledge that it came from God. But even if you reject that, it comes from somewhere. You have some reference point. And it is not... that like killing babies is awesome, or that like gay sex is the supreme act that a person can commit, or something like that. But I don't mean to put you on the spot, Matt, but I'm talking a lot of faith. I don't know if you and I have ever talked faith before, have we?
No, I mean, I've read the New Testament. I've read the Old Testament up through, I think, Samuel. I got to David and Goliath, and for some reason never went past that. But it's and then I skipped Leviticus because I figured it doesn't apply to me. But
congratulations.
I don't know. I feel like everyone should read the Bible. There's actually a good version I got that show The Chosen put out where they harmonized all the 4 Gospels into one book. So there's no. Like it's the full. It covers every point all 4 of them cover, but there's no repetition in stories.
Yeah, so
and
it's one continuous story with reference from each author.
Yeah, it was just a very easy way to read it.
Interesting.
I thought. Yeah. So.
Well, all right. I'm going to come back to chats later on. Appreciate everybody who super chatted. Where's my? I lost it. Jen Psaki.
I'll have to just circle back.
We'll circle back to your chats at the end of the stream. Appreciate you guys. All right, I got to backtrack a little bit just because, as always, I think I'm going to be able to cover more than I can. And there's lots. We didn't even get to the FDA guy before we took the break. So I got to come back to that because the top vaccine guy at the FDA, his name is Peter Marks. And no, it's not like Carl. It's Marks. Peter Marks resigned on Friday through a letter to the acting FDA commissioner. He says he's going to resign and retire by the end of the week, April 5th. As the director of the FDA's Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research. Now, the FDA, of course, is under the leadership of the Department of Health and Human Services and the secretary of HHS, who is now, of course, RFK Jr. And RFK Jr. famously has some questions about vaccines. And this guy, Dr. Marks, he loves vaccines. And so he says it's not possible to work with RFK Jr. This Dr. Marks didn't leave anything to imagination in this letter that he wrote. He said about RFK specifically, it has become clear that truth and transparency are not desired by the secretary, but rather he wishes subservient confirmation of his misinformation and lies. Okay, so there's not holding anything back. Marks, by the way, is the guy credited with coining the name and concept Operation Warp Speed, the effort under Trump to develop the vaccine, of course. That's in here somewhere, yeah. So he's the guy who came up with the concept of Operation Warp Speed, which, of course, pushed the vaccines to market while they were still being tested. And this resignation is widely believed to be a firing, like he was forced out rather than like just, choosing to resign voluntarily, implicitly forced out by RFK Jr. himself. That's the way it's being described by sources with knowledge. And who would we be to question their knowledge, as always?
I mean, that makes more sense because his views on vaccines have been known it's been his thing for decades. So he's been in office for 2 months now, or a month and change. You would have to. I just don't get what's new that would come out that would cause him to resign. It's either him being fired or he wanted to quit anyway and wanted some coverage for some.
Could be that. Could be he's at retirement age and is like, an opportunity for grandstanding. I would love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But this morning on ABC's This Week, Martha Raddatz brought back Dr. Ashish Jha, Biden's COVID response coordinator. And he's saying that RFK Jr. is responsible for increasing vaccine skepticism in this country. And of course, all the kids are going to die because of it.
We are told by an official familiar with Mark's resignation that it wasn't really a resignation, that he was pushed out, basically. This is what he said in his resignation letter. It has become clear that truth and transparency are not desired by the secretary, but rather he wishes subservient confirmation of his misinformation.
More and more recently, he has been pushed to advocate for quack vitamins and cod liver oil and not the thing that we know works for measles, which is vaccines. And for someone with his scientific integrity, I think it just got to be too much.
You have made no secret about your concern over RFK Jr. as HHS secretary.
We absolutely should be tracking side effects and injuries from vaccines. They're rare, but they happen, and it's important to assess them. What he is doing is elevating that issue to a point and bringing in people who are not scientists, who are going to make the data on injuries and side effects much more dramatic than they are.
And people hear this. It has an effect.
Absolutely. And we know it has an effect because we're seeing vaccination rates among children declining. And that, of course, is putting kids across America at risk.
Yeah. I can't believe that people are only now wondering if corporate chemical concoctions might not be the magical elixir that they're advertised as. And I don't doubt his premise. Like, are people more vaccine skeptical today than they were, say, 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Is RFK personally responsible for that? Listen, I'm way more vaccine skeptical today than I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I never had to listen to an RFK word to arrive at that skepticism. Who's responsible for the skepticism in me? Dr. Ashish Jha and all his friends. Because they said, hey, take the shot and you'll be immune from transmission. Oh, just kidding. You'll still get the virus, but the symptoms will be reduced. Oh, just kidding. You'll have to keep taking it forever to reduce the symptoms. But actually, just kidding, because the symptoms are mild to begin with. And so you don't really know if they were reduced or not.
It wasn't even really a vaccine. It was more of a preemptive therapeutic more than anything else. And that, that was best evidenced by the fact that you have to take one every year or so.
Yeah.
And I think once it got to the third or fourth booster, people just stopped taking them whatsoever and or entirely. And I really don't think there would have been as much as an anti-vaccine backlash if they just never mandated it. I mean, I was someone who...
Yeah. You also threatened force to kick people off the job if they had questions about it and decided not to.
I at first thought, because Trump was promoting, and I thought, maybe it's worth getting. I mean, I already had COVID, so I was leaning to not getting it. And then once they said, you have to get it and you can't sue us if anything happens, I went, oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah. And that's just it. It was the deploying of propaganda and force mechanisms. Mm-hmm. And when you do both of those things, like your explanation is poor and it changes all the time, and then you also try to force people to take it, of course they're going to have hesitation. Of course they're going to remove themselves from that arrangement. But it's somehow the fault of the other guy who also noticed. Like, oh, if only he wouldn't have noticed and said something about it, then you all would have been in line for vaccines, assuredly. But yeah, if Dr. Ashish Jha wants to figure out who's responsible for vaccine skepticism, consult the Mirror. He is the guy, not him alone, but him and all his friends are the ones who changed my mind rather drastically on the topic, or at least made me much more skeptical of their claims than I was prior.
Well, everything always supports what they already believe. Like I was reading this is sort of tangential, but there's an article by Steve Saylor about how after George Floyd, cops actually did stop pulling over black people.
I'm sure.
And the result was you get more people speeding, and speeding is like 10, 20 times more deadly than drunk driving. So you're going to, to be fair, I read that from like some industry group, so I'm not entirely sure if that's right. But the point was there's something like an extra 3,000 black people dying every year since George Floyd. And I read a Harvard study on it, and it was noticing this completely new phenomenon in 2020. And it was structural racism in highway policy is what they blamed for it. So it's no matter what happens from what they do, it just confirms what they were doing in the first place.
Yeah, of course. More cowbell, more vaccines. Well, in other healthcare lunacy, a retired Los Angeles lawyer, his name is Paul Eisner, he's introducing a proposed ballot initiative he hopes to get to voters in California. He's calling it the Luigi Mangione Access to Healthcare Act, as in, yes, he named the proposed ballot initiative after the accused cold-blooded murderer of the United Healthcare CEO back in November. Now, what would this bill do? Well, it's not a bill, I guess, a ballot initiative. If it became law, if voters approved it, it would ban insurance companies from denying or delaying, Luigi's words, denying or delaying any claim for medical procedures unless a doctor recommends the denial or the delay. So here is this lawyer Eisner explaining this proposal.
We're tired of insurance companies denying them health care.
Retired litigator Paul Eisner, who still holds an active license to practice law, says his brush with cancer more than 15 years ago turned into a battle with his insurance company, which denied medical care he says he needed.
Were they going to pay for it, or was I going to pay for it and litigate it?
Eisner says this personal experience motivated him to draft this new proposed statewide ballot measure, which would make it illegal to, quote, delay, deny, or modify any medical procedure or medication, leaving that right only to a licensed physician.
At least means they're going to have a medical opinion, not an adjuster saying, we want to save money, therefore we're not doing it.
The initiative would let patients sue insurers and potentially receive both attorney fees as well as 3 times the amount of actual damages decided by a jury. But what's the idea behind naming this measure for Luigi Mangione, the man accused of murdering 50-year-old Brian Thompson, CEO of United Healthcare?
For a very simple reason. It's getting the attention it needs. Because sometimes things require publicity.
It's a very Reddit brained bill, I guess.
Anything for publicity, apparently, including celebrating at least an accused cold-blooded murderer, because, of course, it's wrong for people to be killed. That's the premise of this idea. Trying to unwrap that logic will scatter your brain. Go ahead, sorry.
I think this just encourages terrorism if it actually gets passed and turns out to be like it's a great bill for everyone.
Well,
so that's bad.
Yeah. Well, if you listen to the rest of the interview, he says, no, I don't favor Luigi's tactics. I'm doing it the right way. I'm using the law. I guess he likes the spirit of Luigi, if not the actual actions. But question remains, why do we know who Luigi Mangione is? It because of his profound healthcare policy philosophy papers that he wrote on online? Is that why we know Luigi Mangione? Or do we know who he is because he took a gun and shot someone in the back?
And girls find him attractive. So it's a combination. But if Luigi ends up being innocent and gets off, he's going to have a great rest of his life.
Oh, my God. Well,
he's going to coast.
I'll see if he's available to come on the show.
Have you seen his social media?
I didn't know he had any. I know he requested a computer, but he has no internet access right now.
His ideology is completely it's on his Wikipedia page, I think, quotes from it, but it's completely schizophrenic, his ideology, but he's posted like some like bizarrely right-wing things. He's followed people on Twitter that I follow that are like niche right-wing accounts and was tweeting insights from Ted Kaczynski's Unabomber manifesto. So he's completely all over the place. I assume he had a mental break or something.
A disciple of Uncle Ted, you say? Now
yes, he is. Yeah.
Now I'm intrigued. All right. What's hilarious about the premise, like let's take this ballot initiative as presented. What's hilarious about the premise is that I guess only insurance companies are motivated by profit, so only they deny, delay, or otherwise distort valid claims to their benefit, as though doctors don't have the same incentive themselves. Do they? This guy's a lawyer. He can't be an idiot. He does realize that doctors also have financial incentives that may not actually be in the best medical interest for the patient. Now the doctors, if this became law, they get what? They get a tool to screw the insurance companies over. I know many of us rightly don't have a lot of sympathy for insurance companies, but is it going to fix it to enable doctors to stick the screw to insurance companies to personally enrich themselves? Call me skeptical of that particular fix. And ultimately, of course, if this happened, it's going to be exactly like what has happened with home insurance in California. When you force insurance companies to insure everything beyond the definitions and limitations of the agreement, you're making it financially impossible to do business. They did that with home insurance effectively. Almost no companies are at least taking new policies for home insurance in California anymore. And so what happens? The state has to insure them on their awesome California state home insurance plan that is very crappy comparatively and is assuredly broke. And that's what's going to happen with health insurance. Like, oh, we've created a market that isn't a market. Nobody can actually operate here to provide health insurance. Great. We'll absorb them into the state's insurance programs. And if you think you hate your insurance company now, just wait until the government is your insurance company. At least now you have choice. You could shop for a different plan. You could leave that plan. You can't leave the government. And so once you shut out this market to competing entities, you are not going to get a superior product from the state of California, you dummies. But good luck if you try this.
I mean, at the minimum, prices are just going to skyrocket because if they're going to end up paying 3 times what the original claim was, the money's got to come from somewhere, and it's coming from other people in the risk pool.
Yes.
And listen, I know we can Google, and there's going to be some truly insane cases of things getting denied by insurance, but some of the sob stories I've seen have been cases where it's going to cost millions of dollars for, a 5% chance of saving someone's life with something experimental. And again, there's finite resources, and the money that could be spent on that person could save far more lives if the claim was denied. I mean, it's a terrible situation to be in, but every country with socialized medicine, their threshold for what they'll spend per year is way lower than that. I mean, I think in the UK, the last time I checked, it was $30K per year of life, but this was more than a decade ago. But the point being, it is capped somewhere. You're not, a lot of these medical horror stories you see in America, where there is six-figure debt, you're just not getting covered at all in other countries.
Yeah, no matter how charitable, benevolent you believe the state to be, or how much better you think the government could handle healthcare, there is no entity, private, public, or otherwise, that is immune to the sort of resource limitations, the laws of scarcity that you're talking about. We could all have disputes about how healthcare resources ought to be managed. The government is not going to distribute those resources any more efficiently or kindly than the private market does. And so I think we all, like, for a person who has a 5% chance at survival through an experimental method, I think we would all love that opportunity to be available to that person. But how best is that achieved? Is it achieved with like the benevolent government handing it to them? Or is it achieved through people doing that voluntarily, either through payment for those services or through some sort of charitable gift to that person? Give me anything but the state of California for managing my healthcare needs and the needs of my family. I'll take that gamble. But even though Trump and Republicans, they have their problems. We've got economic uncertainty. We've got border and deportation issues that are tied up in court. We've got Signal group chat gate, of course. You can still count on Democrats to fumble the opportunity. Minnesota governor and, of course, Kamala Harris VP candidate Tim Walz,
I'm a knucklehead at times,
is on tour with former Texas congressman and fellow presidential election failure and Senate election failure and, I guess, governor election failure. I forgot he ran against Governor Hot Wheels in Texas. But Beto O'Rourke,
hell yes,
they're on tour together. And just the presence of like two election losers together, that should be enough to make any objective observer realize this is a failure. But it's going beyond that. Tim Walz isn't just doubling down on failed personalities or people. He's doubling down on failed ideas. You see, the problem for Democrats in election 2024 is that they didn't go hard enough on ideas that people don't like.
That our strength is our diversity. We've been talking about this for years as a country of immigrants, and we let them define the issue on immigration. We let them define the issue on DEI, and we let them define what woke is. We got ourselves in this mess because we weren't bold enough to stand up and say, you damn right we're proud of these policies. We're going to put them in, and we're going to execute them.
Yeah, that's it.
Please go with this.
It's noticeable how, and this is, I think, the first time in history where the young men are more right-wing than older people. I mean, when I was in high school, it was probably 60-70% Obama, anecdotally at least, and now it is completely flipped, where if you're a self-respecting white guy, you kind of have to be right-wing.
Yes, that's a perfectly fair way to place it. Now, my only advice for Tim Walz, not just stick with the failed ideas and go harder on them, but has Tim Walz considered introducing his well-known friends to the campaign trail?
I've become friends with school shooters.
He could bring in Eric and Dylan. I mean, I guess they're hard to reach these days.
Yeah, they're hard to reach.
The ghosts of Eric and Dylan, or maybe Adam, his buddy Adam. Maybe Nicholas. Nicholas is still around. Nicholas he could bring on stage with him.
Yeah.
His friends could help him out to express these ideas better and go harder on these ideas. Lessons learned for next time for Tim Walz. Now, why are they doing, what the hell's Tim Walz doing campaigning outside of Houston with Beto O'Rourke? It's because there's a Republican congressman in that district called, his name is Troy Nehls. And of course, there's pressure for this Troy Nehls to host a town hall because, angry, programmed, anti-Elon Musk NPCs want to go there and shake their fists at him about Doge, but I guess he's not doing that. So in place of the congressman for that district, Beto O'Rourke and Tim Walz are showing up for the angry, anti-Elon NPCs to shake their fists. And they're, I guess, capitalizing on that market. But if they really want to make that member of that congressman look bad, just shut up. Okay. You guys talking. I mean, every time talked a lot about a lot of stories tonight, tariffs, the gun stuff going on. Every time I have like a point of skepticism or doubt about Republicans or Trump, here come Democrats to keep talking and remind me, okay, I have no choice. I am a self-respecting white guy, as you describe. I can't go to there's no way. They won't.
They've learned nothing, and I don't know. I just can't imagine wanting to be part of a movement where you're walking on eggshells. Like whenever you'll see a white liberal talk about a problem that affects them, it's almost like I don't know, doctrine at this point, where they have to preface it with, as a white guy who's had blah 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 privileges, and life's all been easy for me. This part does suck.
Now, in fairness to Beto O'Rourke, if anyone could walk on eggshells and not break them, it is him. He's got that David Hogg figure going on, very light.
There were some liberal hype accounts posting this, and then the AOC Bernie Sanders one, I think in Arizona, talking about how impressive the crowd turnout was. And I'm like, it wasn't enough a couple of months ago. Like, what are you trying to hype up here?
I love the approach of, but have you considered Bernie?
I am not going to be niggardly.
Have you heard from him yet? No. What a fresh guy with fresh ideas. Anyway, again, please put Bernie Sanders out there more. Good luck with that. All right. Okay. Now, I have a story from NPR I mentioned at the top of the show. And to preface that story, NPR is one of these organizations that is potentially on the chopping block for federal funds through DOJ and other scrutiny of where we spend our money. This week, NPR CEO Catherine Maher was testifying before Congress. She talked about accusations of left-wing bias at NPR. Now, NPR doesn't operate completely from federal funds or anything like that. It gets a very small percentage of its revenue from federal grants. They say it's something like 1%. But that's according to their accounting. So I don't know, maybe it's more. But they're not just strictly a federal government operation. Catherine Maher this week admitted that NPR did not treat the Hunter Biden story with the seriousness they should have before the 2020 election. Same with the lab origin for COVID. And as I was looking at some NPR stuff this week, I stumbled upon the sort of insane NPR coverage that makes one wonder why we ever gave them a single dollar. The headline for this story could be something like, child abusers warn about the dangers of child abuse.
Oh, God.
Or the dangers of not abusing children, I guess. Yeah. That would not be harsh enough, though. It should be child abusers warn about the dangers of protecting kids from their predations, I think would be a better headline. Actual headline, what happens when a Chicago hospital bows to federal pressure on trans care for teens? Now, I'm sure you can guess what trans care refers to. Grab your scalpel, grab your hatchet, grab your chainsaw. Trans care is here for these youths.
Oh man, there's a Kiwi Farms thread called it's just like a documentation of parents of transgender kids and how insane they all are.
Oh, yes.
But it is like these people you can tell they want it, and they'll look for any, like if a kid wants to put on a dress when they're 3, well they must be a woman, as if the kid even has any conception. And the thing I always wonder with this is, feminists have been saying for years, and this is kind of a key point of intersectionality, that you and I can't really put ourselves in the shoes of a woman because we're not a woman. So we can never
no uterus, no opinion on abortion.
We literally can't understand their opinion, and that is true. Like, we can't fully have theory of mind for what it's like to be a woman, or just the biological aspect. And if that's the case, when a guy says he thinks he's a woman, by their own logic, it's not possible. And it's one of those things they're actually correct about. So it's just weird how self-refuting everything they believe is.
Well, the psycho moms are a big part of this story. And notice I say moms and not parents, because a certain figure appears to be absent. But yeah, you can guess what trans care means. This story profiles a 17-year-old who they do not name or refer to, or they don't name in this story. They do refer to this 17-year-old transgender person with male pronouns. Now, it's actually a female who is being indoctrinated by her degenerate mom to believe she's transgender and then hack her body apart. But the story refers to this 17-year-old girl as he. Listen to this insane sentence mixed in here. He has already frozen his eggs in case he wants to have biological children one day. Well, why would a 17-year-old need to freeze her eggs to become a mom someday? Well, maybe it's because her mom was planning to help her hack herself up, and she apparently is already pumping herself full of hormones that could sterilize her. So her mom, Jane, scheduled this 17-year-old girl for a top surgery at the Children's Hospital in Chicago. But thanks to evil Trump's executive order threatening to withhold federal funds from hospitals that do gender transitions for kids, this Chicago Children's Hospital won't do it anymore. And the story goes on to describe the sadness of this wicked woman having to tell her daughter that she won't be able to hack off her boobs today. And it was just devastating, says Mom. And she says, we're being threatened. The trans community is being threatened and parents are being threatened, but we will do what we need to take care of our children. No, you're being stopped from abusing your child, and you're lucky not to be arrested and imprisoned, frankly. But, good luck to you. And the question that I have for you, Matt, I'll put you on the spot a little bit. If you think it's important enough for your daughter to freeze her eggs so that she can become a mom, number one, why would you risk the sterilization if you think that's a very important thing? But number two, why are you hacking off the equipment necessary to feed those grandchildren of yours?
I don't think there is an answer. It's going to be some indoctrinated line that there's people as well. They always speak in cliches. Like there's one line that every trans parent says where like, if their daughter wants to become a son, they'll say something like, I'd rather have a transgender son than a dead daughter.
Yeah,
and
right.
my thing always is, if your kid, your solutions are chop your penis off or shoot yourself in the face. Like there's a serious underlying problem here, and it's not a gender thing.
Yeah, there are choices that shouldn't be choices. As in you've avoided viable alternatives to get to this point, haven't you?
Yeah.
Now, the story then goes on to profile another young woman who I guess was lucky enough to hack off her chest at her mom's facilitation before the ban happened. And you can see the picture of this young man now, Ben Garcia is his name, hanging out with his mom in their apartment with Black Lives Matter decor. And mom looks exactly like you'd expect her to. Mm-hmm. She is an obese, short-haired Karen bent on making her daughter even more unattractive than she is, apparently.
The American people are tired of women.
And you notice, I mentioned it, what do you notice is absent in both of these stories?
Oh, man, it's really hard to see.
Zero mention of Dad. Where the hell is Dad? Now, is Dad...
Suffering.
I hope it's a situation where Dad got hit by a truck and died.
Mm-hmm. That's actually less sad than if he was out of the picture and had to deal mentally with this.
Right. As in to say, I don't know if Dad is gone by his own fault. Like, did Dad abandon his family and he's a scumbag? Did he go out for cigarettes? He never came back? I don't know. Did this psycho mom push Dad out of this scene? It's unclear. But what is clear in the examples cited in this NPR story, remove Dad and suffer serious consequences. A wise society observes that truth, but we're having trouble finding clarity on it, it seems. And speaking of women who are tiresome to deal with, this woman named Zoe. Now, I don't know Zoe's story other than what she describes here, like her background. I searched around, tried to find some more context, but I couldn't. This video of Zoe's went viral this week. Have you seen this yet?
I feel like I might have. I mean, I've seen this video in other contexts of it. There's a million of these. But
okay.
Yes.
You've seen variations of this. Yeah.
Correct. It's the latest.
So she talks about a breakup that she had sometime after the election. So it's relative, even if it wasn't made this week, it's relatively recent. But Zoe describes the story of how she broke up with her boyfriend over politics, and she believes it was the right decision. And this clip is very long, but I have to play it all because there's a lot to talk about in response.
Story time on how politics ruined my last relationship. So let me set the scene for you. I was dating this guy. We've been dating for 5 months. And in those 5 months, I was told by my friends, Zoe, he lives in Indiana. He's a fucking Republican. I was like, politics don't matter to me. What was that wrong? And so I was like, it's fine. I don't care. I'm going to get to know him first. We'll decide later. I'm a very liberal woman. Everyone knows that I'm a liberal woman. My brother's gay. All my friends are gay. Also like abortion rights, female rights. But anyways, I would like always ask him. I'd be like, what's your politics? He was just like, well, like socially, I'm a liberal, but economically, I'm a Republican. Fuck that. Okay. Also, he was a 28-year-old man. That's the first red flag, because if there's a 28-year-old man and he's single, there's a fucking reason that he's single. I'm like, well, like, what makes you, economically Republican? Because, like, I could give you a whole bunch of fucking facts right now that prove that you shouldn't be. And he was like, all of his info is from his friends. And I was like, you get all your information from your fucking redneck friends. Obviously, you can't trust them. You need to do the research yourself. And if you do the research, I told him, I was like, I'll support you based on your decision if you actually research it yourself. Like, I won't care if you're a Republican.
I'm sure.
Zoe, I have much better things to do than research politics. Like, I have way more important things to do. Okay, saying that to me is absolutely fucking insane, but go off, king. And so I kind of put it on the back burner. I was like, I can't fucking take this right now. Well, then we get into a little spat a couple days before election day, and we almost broke up. And so I was like, nah, it's fine. I'll give him one more chance, blah, 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 blah. Well, actually, before this, he was not registered to vote. He had never voted before. And he told me that he wanted to vote in this election. And I was like, okay, cool, do the research, but that's a whole other thing. And so the voter registration deadline was approaching. I could tell he was going to vote against me. Let's just say it like that. And so I was like, he is not going to make an educated decision on who he votes for. So guess what? I'm not going to remind him of this voter registration deadline. So then it passed. He didn't register to vote. So there we go. It was saved. He wasn't going to vote. I wouldn't have to deal with it then. But then we got into that little spat, and I was like, let me try one more time. Let me see if he's learned anything from me. And I asked him point blank on election day, I'm like, so who would you have voted for if you would have voted in this election? He was like, I would have voted independent. And I was like, do you know that how harmful and basically wasteful that is? And also,
did he
check
do
your
his
privilege
research?
by saying you're going to vote
okay.
independently. And he was like, wow, Zoe, I cannot believe that you think my vote would have been a waste. Shut the fuck up, because it is a waste. Look at fucking Philadelphia. All those independent voters could have put us over the edge and could have helped Kamala win. The two-party system is a fucking joke. You have to pick a side. The independent party never has a chance. So you have to pick a side. And we got into a huge argument about it. And I was like, you know what? Fuck this. This is my last straw. Again, I'm a very liberal woman. I have to date someone that is on the same page as me, because I can't disagree with someone on something that is so important to me for the rest of my life. I fully respect Republicans. I understand that you want to vote that way, but for me, I don't want to marry you and I don't want to date you. So we ended it. And no regrets. I've been single ever since. It was awesome. It's been awesome.
I doubt it. The two-party system is a joke, so you must participate in the two-party system.
I mean, she's only correct in observing, or at least picking up on, if a guy tells a girl socially liberal but fiscally conservative, he is a Republican. He's just like, I don't want to have an abortion debate, so I'll throw socially liberal in there. But I mean, I feel like in college, I think I've probably said something like that too, as which is very cucky, but still.
Agreed. And I'm glad that you're picking up on exactly the point that I want to emphasize, because pretty much everything she says is delusional. Obviously so. A 28-year-old man who's single is inherently suspicious. What are you talking about?
What about her?
Women are attracted to older, well-established men. I don't mean like 60-year-olds, although sometimes if they're very well-established, but I mean a man who has built something. It's preposterous that she says that. I have so many well-researched points in favor of Democratic Party economic policy. I bet you do. I'd love to hear them. So. No, killing babies is not a fundamental moral principle. And if you believe that, you're a degenerate at best. Maybe you're a demon at worst. And no, her biggest delusional point, I'm so happy that I'm single. No, you're hugely unsatisfied. And you're going to continue unsatisfied until you break that delusion. Nobody makes videos sincerely about how awesome being single is. It's pure cope. Yeah. But beyond all of that, this woman's delusional. How do women break the delusion? Because all of her points aside, this is actually a story about a lack of male leadership. This is a story about a man who failed to take a leadership role in this relationship and her innate disdain for it. She can act like this is about politics, and politics is kind of the vehicle, but it's not really about politics. And this is the point that you were picking up on that I'm glad you did. Politics is the disguise. It's the wardrobe for this. She hates that he did not confidently state his beliefs like you're describing. It's the way for a man to be like, okay, I'll indulge you a little bit, but like, I don't.
Yeah.
All right. She hates that he did not confidently state his beliefs, whatever his beliefs may be. That's why she says that part about like, if you research it and you know why you believe it, I'll respect it. Now it sounds like bullshit, like she would never respect it. She would be opposed to it, I don't doubt, but I actually do think that her woman lizard brain would respect it if the man could explain to her, here's points X, Y, and Z as to why you're wrong. I did research it, you're wrong. If he took that leadership role. Okay. And in fairness to this guy, anyway, the point I'm making, she hates that he didn't stand up to her. She hates that he didn't set the terms of the relationship. That's what happens here. And I, in fairness to this guy, I don't know why he didn't do that. Is he just kind of sheepish? Is he cowardly? Or did he realize that like this bitch is way too crazy and I'm just not even going to participate and walk away, which you can do. But this one, I doubt this woman even realizes she was shit testing this entire time. She was baiting this guy into disagreement just to see how he responds. Does he cower? Does he rise to the occasion to lead? Does he assert that leadership? Does he tell her how it is? Because she desperately wants the latter. It's not about politics. Do you agree with me on abortion? No, I want you, my man, to take a leadership role. Here's your opportunity that I have concocted. And when women detect that their man is not a leader, when they give him an opportunity to lead and he balks, they resent him. They challenge him to lead. When he doesn't lead, they leave. And so this is a lesson to all men, including my younger self, and maybe yours if you had the same experience in college age, although you are an engaged/married man. So congratulations.
I got my wife to vote for Trump.
So you don't need this lecture.
No.
Do not defer to women on anything. Now, I value my wife's opinion. Okay. I'm not going to make major decisions without consulting her, but a marriage, a man and wife's husband and wife's relationship is not a democracy. C.S. Lewis makes a great point about this in Mere Christianity. It's not a democracy. There has to be a leader. Women resent you when you reject that leadership role. Don't do it on insignificant things like, what do you want for dinner? Oh, I don't know. Not that, not that, not that. When you indulge in that, they hate you for it. Definitely don't. Sorry, go ahead.
I know this is sort of tangential, but like any advice to any men watching this who are single, like if a woman asks you, where do you want to go eat? And you say something like, well, where do you want to go?
It's a trap.
You're not being helpful.
Yeah.
Be like, we're going to fucking literally anywhere. And that's a better answer than trying to accommodate. Oh, where
correct.
What do you think
get in the car, bitch. We're going. That's the correct
pick a
answer.
booth and get a booth.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Yeah. To your point, the question of where would you like to eat and like, what's your opinion on abortion? They are the same question in this context. They are a proxy for a man's capacity to lead. I'm not saying they're the same in moral quality, of course not, but they are an evaluation of a man's capacity to lead. The point that you're making, lead women, give women a plan, give her direction, give her confidence, security, certainty. The truth is that when you let women lead or you defer to them in the way this guy may have, everyone gets pissed off. The women get pissed off because they want to be led. They want you to be a leader. You get pissed off because deep down in your man lizard brain, you inherently know that you're supposed to lead. You want to lead. And you're rejecting that, whether you realize that you're doing it or not. The conversation between these two people this time was about politics, but the substance was actually much more. This is unsatisfied woman shit testing and a man who is either too submissive or too wise, recognizing her crazy, to oblige. I don't know which one it was, but I say too wise, as in like maybe he knew that she was just too loopy. He wanted his way out. But even if that's what happened, if he had determined this bitch is too crazy, I'm out. Like I'm not dealing with this for the rest of my life. If you believe that, you've come to that conclusion, as maybe he did, I need to move on, you still take a leadership role to do that. You move on, you break up, you have the decency to explain to her why. This guy didn't do that. He allowed her to push and push and push until she just walked away. That is a weak move, regardless of why he did it. So even though this chick is very hateable, and none of this is intended to be like a defense of her, it's just to say that this disguise of politics that this is framed in is not actually the main issue here.
Yeah, no, I think that's 100% it. And I don't know. Like, the thing is, too, is women are actually more, I feel like, attracted to conservative men who have leadership qualities. And I saw, and maybe it wasn't real, but it was on X, like a photo of a girl's dating profile. And it said something like, I want a liberal man who looks like a Republican. Like, this is where we're at.
No, they don't. No, they don't. I guarantee it's like all this trash dating shows I like to watch. Last time you were on, I talked about that with Sean Fitzgerald. It's what women claim they want in this like feminized man and what they will actually select because they're biologically programmed to select it. Two completely different things. You have to take a leadership role. Obviously, none of this is to advocate disrespect for women or treating women like crap or anything. It's to say, like, when I teach my sons one day how to interact with women, it's to be assertive. It's to take a leadership role. It is not to disrespect. It is not to demean them. Obviously, if you believe a woman is going to become the mother of your children, she deserves more respect than you give to pretty much anybody else in this world, your family, your parents included, perhaps. So it's not to be interpreted that way. It's just to say that our society is so warped that somehow we believe that like women love leading and they love a submissive man who just does whatever they say. No, everyone hates that. Don't participate in that game.
It was an identical problem on that Love is Blind show. And I don't know if you ever watched any of the episodes.
I've watched them all. Every one that's ever aired.
I've watched it with my wife.
Yeah.
That's my excuse. The couple in that viral scene of the girl leaving him for politics, when they're like early dating in the show, which is, it's anonymous. So like there's a wall between you can't see each other, but there's a scene where and it was unintentionally hilarious, where she says, what do you think about Black lives?
Yeah.
And he's like, I haven't given it much thought.
And she said, yeah, I mean, I guess it was, yeah, it was funny in that regard, but her follow-up was funny too, which is, I don't know if I like that. And that's, on the surface, you think, oh, she doesn't like that he doesn't have an opinion about Black Lives Matter. I'm sure she doesn't. But deeper, in the same way we're talking about here, she doesn't like that he doesn't have an opinion.
Yeah.
Regardless of what that opinion is. She doesn't like that he is balking at a leadership opportunity. And the similarities in this situation are well, it's a very similar case. And so even though it's very tempting and very justified to point all our fingers at women and say feminism ruined everything, I'm out, I'm not participating, I promise you it is worthwhile. Men out there who are maybe discouraged about the state of women and the state of the relationship between men and women, it is worthwhile to become that man that a woman will respond to in a leadership role, to build a family, to have all these. It's well worth it. All you got to do is find one. Anyway, I don't need to be like encouragement speaker guy.
This chick sucks. Yeah. I mean, still.
I just remember what it was like, 2018, being in this spot where thinking like, this is the worst dating market imaginable. I'm about to quit. Yeah, I remember that. And I promise you that the other side is well worthwhile. All right. I got some hoax hate. You ready for it?
Oh, yeah.
And now, the nobody saw it happen, but it's totally a product of Trump's America hoax hate crime of the week.
Ah, shit, it's backwards. You think they'll notice?
This feat of mine would be more impressive if I wasn't right about everything all the time. But, that is the state of my career. And man, it feels so good to always be right. Sometimes it's so obvious that even an absolute moron could have correctly predicted this, or only an absolute moron would have ever bought this at face value in the first place. Now, I started talking about this case months ago when it happened. Yes, that noose on that city worker's desk in Allentown, Pennsylvania was a hoax. And yes, I correctly called it.
Congratulations, butthead.
Now, I also predicted that the sun was going to rise this morning. I'm prepared to make another prediction that it will rise tomorrow morning too. So, just in case you want to make some
more
bets
impressive
on my wisdom. This woman's name is Latarsha Brown. That's a new one to me, Latarsha.
I was trying first of all, we're just making up names now.
Yeah, that's not a great one, but it's Latarsha Brown. And I assume now she formerly worked for the city of Allentown, Pennsylvania, because she should be fired, or maybe she will be pending investigation. But there were several lawsuits going on that Latarsha Brown was participating in, investigations saying that the city and city leadership, they're racist, they're discriminatory. And so as part of this ongoing racism and discrimination battle, she said she found a noose at her desk in early January. Well, now she is facing charges because investigators say she faked the whole thing. Here is the police chief and a detective.
As a result of the subsequent investigation, Latarsha Brown was charged with tampering with or fabricating physical evidence, a misdemeanor of the 2nd degree, and false reports to law enforcement, a misdemeanor of the 3rd degree.
Initially cooperative, Ms. Brown later requested that the investigation be discontinued. The noose was submitted to the Pennsylvania State Police Crime Lab for DNA testing on January 14, 2025. On March 10, 2025, the Forensic DNA Division of the Pennsylvania State Police issued a written report indicating that Ms. Brown's DNA matched the DNA profile obtained from the swabs of both the outer surface and inner knotted portion of the noose after it was taken apart. No other person's DNA profiles found on the evidentiary items involved in this investigation.
Yeah, I don't have like a police investigation experience. I would imagine that when the person who brings the claim to the police says, "Please stop investigating my claim now," that's probably a red flag. I would guess.
I think there's an opportunity for a study here, which is, if you take a hate crime that rises to either local or national news, let's say gets enough where it's egregious enough where it gets TV coverage, I feel like it probably is statistically more likely to be fake.
Ah, okay, I see what you're saying. Like the more prominent the story, the more likely it's false.
Yeah, like you sort of see this, and I don't mean to be insensitive because I haven't crunched the data, but like a lot of the really high-profile rape cases that are egregious, like the Rolling Stone one that was totally fake. Like, I feel like the ones that are in that variety, like a real victim doesn't want to be a national story, and that it sort of is, I don't know, self-selecting in a way where it's more likely to be false. And I feel like it could be the case with hate crimes where if you were someone who got the heck kicked out of you, is your first thought really like, I'm trying to censor myself for YouTube. I don't know what gets flagged.
Thank you for being so courteous.
Thank you, of course.
I'm going to drop an N-bomb to compensate them. All right.
But no, I don't know. It's like I got the hell kicked out of me. I'll bring it up a notch. I don't know if the first thing I'd want to do is go on national TV and be the guy who got beat up. Like, I don't know. It's just, I can't,
unless you ate a delicious Subway sandwich and you left the noose, or all those things.
Yeah.
But now we actually get to see. So when I followed this story, one of the biggest gaps in it was, why can't we see the noose? This story went on for months and months. There was all this investigation. We never got to see the noose. Where's the noose? Well, now after she's been charged, we actually do get to see this crappy noose.
Oh no.
And at least according to the image, it's what I was describing earlier. Like, why can't we ever use rope that would be capable of suspending a person in the air?
Allentown police say a worker who claimed she found
a
noose on her City Hall desk planted the noose herself.
Now, that woman is now being charged with filing a false police report and tampering with evidence.
Back on January 10th, the report first came out that Latarsha Brown found a noose on her desk in the city's Department of Community and Economic Development, and the outrage was swift.
Black Lives Matter.
Protests outside City Hall called for an end to hate and supported Brown. But less than 3 months later, Police Chief Charles Roca says Brown put that noose there herself.
It's not even a noose. Like, did you just steal someone's shoelace? Why? Why?
It's one of those pulleys from the gym where the exercise where you're like pulling it up and you can't see what on camera, but it does not look like a noose at all. It's like the Bubba Wallace one, which was like a noose for Minnie Mouse or something.
Well, at least that one had a practical purpose of pulling the garage door.
Correct.
That was like a real, a loop for a utility. This is just like you took a string and put it in a loop shape. I don't think that was even functional. Like, does that not tighten in the way that a noose would. It doesn't look like it would, but more to the point, is there any update from those Black Lives Matter protesters featured in the story, like the NAACP who jumped all over this? We're going to get comment from the people who said
never.
The Allentown City Councilwoman CC Gerlach, this is a hate crime. She declared back in January when it happened, and they said, all the activists said, we got to get the FBI on the case because this is a hate crime, so it's federal jurisdiction. The FBI comes in, she refuses to talk to them, she refuses to submit to a request for a DNA sample. The law enforcement did exactly what the activists demanded, and it turned out to prove that their claims were fake, and now we don't get any follow-up with the activists to say, so your thoughts. Now, I imagine what they would say is something to the effect of, well, this one may not have happened, but the spirit of it is true, and we see events like this all the time, even though we don't. When is the last time we even had a lynching in this country? Decades and decades and decades ago.
It's sort of like the response people give when they fall for satire, where they're like, well, the fact that it was believable shows that there's a problem or something. Yeah. I really thought that with the Jussie Smollett case, I mean, you would have the obvious effect of people not taking real hate crime seriously.
Yeah, they still bite. They still buy it right away.
But I thought, too, that, you know, fake hate crimes would actually go down because of how humiliating it must have been or looked, and I was totally wrong.
Not only that, but LaTarsha Brown, she's not just like an Allentown City employee. She's a school board trustee in Allentown. Right. So she's in charge of educating the children, or at least crafting the policy under which they are educated. So Godspeed to our future.
Oh, man.
I mentioned monkeys are banned. They are. In Long Beach, California, a black family is outraged after their 10-year-old fifth grader, Genesis Thomas, received a toy monkey with a toilet with poop in it as a prize for a school fundraiser. Now, the problem is what? The poop? That's inappropriate for school children. No, that's fine. We don't have a problem with the poop. The problem is that apes can never be depicted or presented to black people in modern society ever. These are always artifacts of racism.
A school fundraiser prize is causing outrage tonight. A toy monkey and fake poop were given to a young black girl.
It was the prize that she received that we found very inappropriate. The prize was a monkey and a toilet with poop in it. African Americans have been referred to as monkeys throughout history. For her to receive a monkey, unacceptable. It's unacceptable.
This afternoon, we visited the family at their Long Beach home. The young child played in the yard, unfazed by the commotion. Her participation gift has stirred within the family unit, but her family is demanding to be heard. They told Fox 11 that they complained to the school since Friday. They got no apology. They went back again today, this Monday. Still, they said they received no call from the school. They also say that they think sensitivity training is required by the school. Almost any family would be probably upset by what she was presented, but especially an African-American family.
Would almost any family be upset? There are lots of families not upset in Long Beach, except for this one.
Well, if this was a prize, doesn't that mean it was going to be the same for everyone?
That is implied, although if you listen to the full report, they cannot confirm whether Genesis was the only one to receive the monkey prize or not. They also reported that the top prize in the school fundraising contest was some sort of mini fridge. No word on if there was like a monkey graphic on the fridge or something like that.
There was, I don't know, people will take offense to anything in this regard. Like there was a story, I think, last year where it was like a teacher got in trouble because he brought like grape soda and chicken to class for Black History Month. And I was like, why? Like, okay, I guess black people hate grape soda.
I think there was another one.
Give me a break.
Where a school served like chicken and waffles in February, and that was deemed an aggression.
But they like it. Like I have a singular black friend.
It's great.
He loves chicken and waffles.
Yeah.
Like it's just and is proud of it.
Well, why not? To show to the point prior, is there fried chicken is much like pizza. There are degrees of excellence, but is there really a such thing as awful? It's pretty hard to do. Yeah. But I guess soon we're going to have to exterminate all the world's apes in some sort of anti-racism gesture. In fact, demolish every zoo that has ever housed an ape. Just in case a black person ever sets foot on the premises or, God forbid, sees an ape at any point. I notice in that story, Who was that guy who was very mad? It was the prize. The way that he said that. I can't quite imitate his voice. But who was that? Was that Dad? No, that was Great Uncle.
Oh, God.
Where's Dad? Is Dad outraged about this story? The story premise is hilarious. The reporter says, well, I went to the home to investigate. I spoke with the family about their anger, and the young girl played happily in the yard. Right, so a 10-year-old girl displayed the maturity necessary to not give a shit about this. Meanwhile, the family is, no racism intended, going apeshit about seeing a monkey. Or maybe we should all just display the wisdom and maturity of this 10-year-old. And they're demanding sensitivity training for others. Everyone else needs sensitivity training. How about you take sensitivity training and...
Stop being such a pussy!
Yeah, how about that? There's your sensitivity training.
You have to think the school or the teacher bought this. I mean, admittedly, it's a little bizarre, the poop thing.
It's a weird toy for sure. But as a parent with very young children, my wife and I, we frequently observe how bizarrely common poop-themed toys are. Like you go shopping, and we saw one just the other day. This was a gun that was like a toy gun, like a squirt gun sort of thing, that was advertised as you load like a scent liquid into it, and it shoots what is described as real fart rings, like smelly rings. And we were wondering, like, what do you mean real fart rings? From what was this liquid extracted? Did you get it from a real guy's ass, or did you laboratory synthesize it? How were the real farts created? And my point is, there's a lot of poop and fart toys, and it is weird.
Yeah, you'd have to think though the school or the teacher, I guess the teacher would have been responsible, bought this knowing a black kid would win whatever contest. Like, it just doesn't really make any sense. And I don't think I very much doubt the kid made that connection. She probably was happy with the toy and went home with it. And
Kid doesn't care.
Problem.
Yeah,
no.
Kids playing in the yard, doesn't care at all. But all right, I got one more for you. Somewhere near my neck of the woods. This is Plains, Montana. It's the northwest part of the state, so it's actually kind of far away from here. But there's a white mom with a biracial daughter, and she says that their family sign was vandalized with racist graffiti. You know what the word is.
Linka Harris has lived in Plains for the past 30 years. She raised her daughter here. This place is home. That's why she was so shocked when she returned home from work one day, saw the family sign was vandalized with a racial slur.
I cried. I could cry right now. Like, I cried the whole night. It was very scary.
The family lives almost 7 miles away from town. They told me they haven't experienced such an aggressive attack like this before. Mihaela Sachs, who no longer lives in Plains, said this incident has her nervous about returning home.
I felt maybe we were kind of past this. I mean, I've lived here my whole life, and we've had little microaggressions here and there. But then to see it happen again in 2025 was just really disheartening.
Both mother and daughter say the community has responded in kind, gifting them new surveillance equipment for their property, and a craftsman created a new sign for the family to proudly display their name on.
I posted it on Facebook. I was really, really upset. And the comments and all of the messages and all the shares were just in abundance. Yeah. Like, everyone was very, very kind and supportive.
Okay. I noticed again in that story.
As did I.
Where's Dad? Hey, where are you, Pops?
Yeah.
What's the deal with that?
If the N-word has been downgraded to a microaggression, though, I feel like that is progress, you know? So
what were these microaggressions? I guess this is the major aggression. She said she's experienced microaggressions. Apparently they said, "What's up, monkey?" Or something like that. Lesser form. "What's up, monkey? How's the poop in that toilet?" is what they said. I don't know. But
did I hear correctly? They said they live 7 miles away from anyone else.
Yes. So to recap here, the half-black daughter doesn't even live there anymore. I presume that she's away at college since she looks about that age, or she's recently moved away. But just her occasional presence, her infrequent presence on this property, her non-permanent residence, I guess, enraged some local racist so much that he went to their family sign 7 miles outside of a town of 1,000 people to write the N-word on it.
I doubt it.
That's the story.
Of course.
No word on whether there was a shoelace noose found at the scene either. Apparently forgot that detail. And the irony is, and I don't know Plains, I've never been there, but I have plenty of Montana experience, plenty of Montana small town experience. What do they report on at the end? Was the town, does everyone love how delightfully racist this was? No, they bought the family equipment. They helped fix the problem. This town is actually very nice with polite, helpful people who want to be neighborly. That's the truth. But they're going to smear the people in their town, and they're going to lie, which I'm 99.9% confident this is in fact a lie. And they're still going to get rewarded for it. And they're still somehow the victim. So congratulations. But there is a curious detail about this particular piece of vandalism. It was not done with spray paint, as we commonly see. There is an image of the vandalism. It was done with red paint with some sort of paintbrush and like a bucket or a pail of paint. And maybe I'm reading too much into it, but that brushed handwriting, it looks feminine to me.
Yeah.
I know that's like a kind of a subjective call, but it looks like a woman wrote it to me.
Yeah, it reminds me. Did you ever see the photos of when Nancy Mace was allegedly vandalized by Antifa? And
yeah, that was part of the bit. Hey, pull your mic closer. I'm losing you again.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Did I miss that? How did I miss that?
Miss what?
That was part of the bit.
Oh, yeah, I covered that story way back when. But yeah,
okay.
I've done this every week for a million years. Okay, there are a lot of them.
All right, my bad. Anyway,
what
I
was your
agree.
point?
It looks very feminine.
Yeah, well, I don't remember that. So was the Nancy Mace graffiti, was that also done in artsy Nancy style?
Yeah, it was like they dotted their eyes. Everything was really, it made no sense. They put the anarchy symbol that I don't think Antifa, I don't know how often they use it. And then it said something like the advocacy in her house was like, pass the whatever act, as if Antifa wants to, legislate things.
Yeah. Yeah, they dotted the I's with hearts. Are you part of the generation where every girl did that? Every girl's last, like every Cindy and every Julie, their name would end with an I instead of an IE or a Y, and they would dot the I with a heart.
Yeah.
So N-I with a heart, GGERS. That would be the day giveaway.
Is the I the only letter that's not capitalized?
The G's are lowercase, but there is inconsistent capitalization. You're right.
Yeah, all right. Very odd. Yeah.
So, also, my number one question, why is it plural? Because there's only one N involved in this story because, of course, Dad is not around.
Maybe it's not about her.
Maybe they, who knows? Maybe
the wrong house.
I guess. Yeah. We have no idea how many monkeys with poop in their toilets live on this property or not. But, once again, that appears to be the real problem. Make Dad great again. Big theme for tonight's show. But that's all I got. Man, thanks for sticking around for the long haul here. But you want to stick around for a little bit of Super Chat before we're out of here?
Yeah, I'm just going to hit the bathroom. I'll be back in 5.
Okay. I will get into Super Chat. I'll catch you when you get back. Let's see. Where did I leave off? I'm going to hop back into Rumble. Okay. We left off with Spirit of Lexington. Mega B Rex. Missed watching your last 2 shows live, but I had to send you a link to correct Canadian pronunciation of epitome or epitome. How do Canadians pronounce it? I don't know. I know they have all sorts of weird pronunciations, but I replied to your Twitter post for this show. Send me an email. He Mega B Rex says this. Yeah, send me an email. That's it's hard to keep up with tweets, but emails are the way to go. He also says, I'm going to stop sending chats for now. Well, thanks for supporting the show. Appreciate it. Spirit of Lexington says, the guy's a lawyer. He can't be an idiot. May I refer you to one Kamala Harris? Well, fair point. There are plenty. I'm just saying you got to pass like the LSAT and the bar and stuff. I don't know. You can't be like a complete moron, but I guess morons do it. Spirit of Lexington says, no matter what smart profession you pick, lawyer, doctor, politician, teacher, I guarantee you there are plenty of idiots to be found within them. I'll take your point on that for sure. GR says, nobody seemed to realize or acknowledge that I was saying he gave me a bad vibe. I never offered a debate or came in hot, at least not on the call. Well, I have to disagree a little bit with the premise that you didn't come in hot. I mean, go back and listen. You definitely came in to challenge, and I'm not saying that's wrong or bad. You're free to do that, and frankly, I appreciate if you do. I think it's great to have a competition of ideas, so that's not a problem. But clearly, you called in to challenge, and if you call in to challenge, you have to be willing to engage. I'm not saying you weren't willing to engage, but there was a point made to to challenge Stephen. And I think he's perfectly entitled to respond. But I appreciate your support for the show and, of course, your participation in the show. Also says, I ranted all before the call and told you so. Letting him respond to those was just rehashing whatever that was. Should have left that in the past, but I'll debate him. Don't know about what. Well, listen, GR, if you're sending notes for the show, we're going to respond to them. I mean, that's the point. I can't protect you from that after the fact. So I appreciate your support for the show, but it's fair if you make accusations or call a person a name, it's totally fair for that person to respond to it. And I think whether you agree with Stephen or not, he was perfectly fair in his response. He wasn't calling names. He wasn't making it personal. He's just responding to what you're saying. So anyway, I appreciate your support for the show and your participation. The Hillbilly Deluxe says her whole identity is wrapped in, I must be right every time. Also, you have to provide and put up with me, the woman with the rant. Yes, but that is probably at some level kind of a natural part of female psychology, but that's part of the test, man. Like women, it's like they want to be tamed in that way. It's like, please tame me. I'm acting insane just so like my Prince Charming can come and save me. I don't know how to explain that dynamic psychologically, but it's real.
I saw someone say about women.
Get that
who
mic
disagree
on your face.
Oh yeah, I'm so bad. Someone on Twitter was saying about like women who disagree with you politically. He's like, listen, man, or listen, guys, women love role playing. Like eventually you'll chip away at it where they just become you. Which I don't know if that's completely true, but I think it's possible.
Nikki, thank you, Hillbilly Deluxe. Nikki941, I confidently say I'm socially conservative because there's too much evidence behind the importance of the family unit. Yeah. But I'm socially liberal sounds like caving to political correctness. That's exactly what it is. Yep. And it's so funny when she mocks that and says like, he said something like, I'm socially liberal, but economically conservative. And she mocked it with such disdain. It's not about the policy position. It's about the fact that is a hedge in the way that Nikki is describing. It's just taking a bitch position because you're too afraid to say what you actually believe. And that's why she responded the way that she did. It's not because of his like preferred tax policy or his views on whether gay people should get married or something like that.
Yeah.
GR says, we just have to tell these clowns to stop being stupid and shut up when they cry racism. Even black people would do that to these clowns, start mocking and ignoring them again. Well, we'll always mock the hoax hate cases, man. Frankly, like that's just, I'm a humble soap salesman and I make fun of hoax hate cases. That's what I do for a career. It's very complicated when I fill out my tax return this time of year, but that's my occupation. GR says, you're lying again. Okay, I'm not lying and I'm not going to be called a liar. Go listen to the call. You came in and confronted Stephen. That's fine. But if you initiate a discussion by challenging someone, they are perfectly justified in response. And that is not a lie. And I won't be called a liar on my own platform. Go listen and you see I called up not knowing what to talk about. Then you started calling Stephen names. I invite you to go back and listen, anybody to go back and listen. I just wanted to call in and I came up with that. Well, Stephen didn't call you names. You started going after Stephen. That was your choice. That's fine. But you have to take responsibility for that. And you are not going to deflect and call me a liar because I hosted the conversation that you directed. It was clear I didn't come in hot. I came in hot in the rants. Okay. Okay. Now we're just like deflect. Oh, I wasn't challenging here. I was only challenging there. You made a point of challenge against the person sitting in on the stream. That's fine. In fact, I think that's great. I love to have a competition of ideas. But you do not get to deflect responsibility to me and say that I lie. You don't get to deflect responsibility to Stephen and say that he was unfair to you when you challenged him first. GR, I really appreciate everything you've contributed to the show. But you have to take responsibility for yourself. This is not anybody else's fault. And frankly, I like having back and forth. I'm not saying that's bad. I like it. But please stop blaming the rest of us for participating in a discussion that you guided. You're the one who called in. You're the one who directed that conversation. And you have to take responsibility for that. I'm not lying when I defer to you to decide what you want to talk about. And that's the direction it goes. Thank you for supporting the show.
I missed this entire scandal.
We had we had kind of a heated back and forth with my friend Stephen Baker, who was sitting in on the Wednesday show, and GR, who disagrees with him, which is fine. I mean, that's great. Like I said, it's not disagreement. It's just there were it was confrontational, and it escalated from there, which is, again, fine. You don't have to be nice. Not everybody has to come on here and it's not necessarily about pleasantries and loving everybody and getting along. It's about debating ideas or discussing ideas, but you can't bring the idea and then a person responds and then you retreat to shelter and say, oh, it's everyone else's fault for attacking me. No, that's not the way it works. You enter the arena, you fight in the arena. Simple as that. Blanket says, Matt seems leftists don't like any black conservative who dates white people. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I guess. I don't know what Jasmine Crockett's position on that is. Matt, I guess Tim would support AOC and Jasmine for 2028. Tim Walz? Perhaps. Yeah, I don't know. Tim Walz, AOC and Jasmine Crockett as a presidential ticket.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, please. Step right up. A Blanket says, Matt, I'm wondering if there will ever be a viral video about a leftist guy complaining about dating a conservative woman. Yeah, that would be a variant I've never heard of. Have you ever seen that?
No, I feel like we should pay someone to make one just for the virality of it.
Well, yeah, someone's gonna have to fake it at this point. It's like
I guess, or
demand but no supply, like the racism issue. Maybe we handle it that way. All right, let me Jen Psaki circle back over to YouTube and Tippy. Let me see. Where did I leave off? I think Friedrich, we got him, Kaiser and Gilroy. This just in, Kanye West has hit peak Hitler spirit energy. My wife just showed me the pic of Kanye West wearing a diamond SS necklace. Doesn't he have a swastika one too?
Yes, what not?
He's going to fudge around and find out soon. Cue the Alex Jones sounder. I don't have that one ready, but I will oblige. Hold on. Where do I have that one stored? It's alphabetical order, but I'm still bad at it.
Heil Hitler, baby.
There we go. Bravo, Victor. Thank you, Kaiser. Matt has breeding stock, as does Liberty Doll. Is there a genetic couple decades down the road? I assume you mean with our children? I don't know. I think Liberty Doll's great, but she's a lovely married mother and should be respected as such. I've never been told I have breeding stock, but I appreciate that. Have you ever been complimented that way? I'll take that as a
you got good genes. I don't know.
Thank you, Bravo. Take compliments where I can get them. Mike has bad knees. As much as Trump is anti-DEI, let's be honest that Pam Bondi is a DEI hire.
At this point, yeah.
She could be selected to fill like the woman checkbox. I still don't know how to interpret the original Matt Gaetz pick. It was such a strange move. Do you think that like, was it gaming to try to have like Gaetz take all the heat and then he would just leave? Or do you think Gaetz was like an authentic pick?
I thought it could have been and I'm not going to swear for YouTube's algorithm, poop test.
Okay.
It's a different 4-letter word.
Yeah.
I have no idea what YouTube flags, but I think it could have been that just to see which Republicans would come out against them. And we have a new senator who was just sworn in, Republican. I can't remember which state, but I'm so bad at this. But anyway, he was against Gaetz, so we learned right off the bat he was kind of more rhino-ish. I guess that's one theory, but then again, Gaetz resigned his House seat, so presumably he thought he was actually going to get the position, and we're now down a House seat because of that.
Oh, did that get flipped, or is he just hasn't been filled? It's just,
I think they're having the special election
soon.
Actually,
that's right.
A Republican will win, but for the time being, we lost one.
But Gaetz does have a reason to leave Congress, which was to escape the Ethics Committee investigation report.
Yeah.
So maybe that was the reason. That whole move was strange. And Gaetz was the only nominee not to make it, right? There was nobody else who wasn't confirmed. I think everybody else got through.
I mean, technically, Elise Stefanik didn't, but that was because we lose the House majority.
Yeah, that was like a voluntary or strategic withdrawal. It wasn't like Congress voted her down or something, or the Senate or whatever. Anyway, thank you, Mike. I mean, Pam Bondi, whatever your explanation, was not a huge fan from the start, had some questions, less of a fan every day. And what even more fundamentally than my disagreements on the wisdom of certain prosecutions or policy matters, like things like gun rights and all that stuff, I just hate from a business perspective, and I know that she's not a business person, but I mean like the general sense, you do not overpromise and underdeliver. Stop doing that. Stop going on Fox News and making big claims, and then when people say, oh, whatever happened to that big claim that you didn't fulfill? Oh, well, I have an even bigger claim now, so stand by. Stop doing that. Just shut up. Say, like, I'm working on it and I'll get you information when I can. Stop overselling and underdelivering. She can't. She has to do it. It's so annoying.
Like when she said she had the Epstein files on her desk, and I'm
Yeah.
like, if I had them on my desk, I'd be home reading them. It would have been on TV. And they must have, unfortunately, they must have found some notable Republican in the documents or something. I don't know what explains the fact that they haven't released.
Or she's just bullshitting. She's just making it up. But what's the benefit? I don't know. Thank you, Mike. And I'm sorry for your knees, but I hope all the best for you. Honest Joe Biden, the nursing home sucks. This nursing home sucks. The food is shit, and the nurse's hair smells worse. Oh, man, the hair's not even good. I want to go back to the Oval Office. Come on, man.
Come on, man.
I wonder where Joe Biden is right now. Rehoboth Beach? I don't know. Does someone find his dead body in the crosswalk where he tried to ride a bike across it?
All right.
I don't know.
It must be humiliating being him, or really Harris and Walz at this point, you know?
Well, the Walz is not that embarrassed. To her credit, Kamala Harris has mostly shut the hell up. I think she had one appearance.
I forgot. Did you see the clip from that town hall of Walz mentioning what his son will say to him now?
Oh, yeah. Shut up, Dad. You lost to Donald Trump or something like that.
No, so you got your ass kicked by Donald Trump.
Yeah. Well, his son better watch out because Tim Walz can kick a lot of asses, as we heard on Gavin Newsom's podcast the other week. So, Polaris 9009 missed the first half of the show. Knuckle Hunkybuck, the faith you had to share is true. Remember that there's always doubters and trash talkers. You have history that is going to take time and work to leave behind. He adds, you may remember while going through divorce, I found a wonderful Christian woman. Almost 2 years later, divorce is done and the ex-wife unknowingly saved me from marrying an M. Night Shyamalan twist. Continues, surprised the whole relationship was a lie. I don't know if she's said anything true. She's been cheating the whole time, and she's an atheist. Yet women wonder, oh, wait, this isn't about, okay. This is a separate thing. So you're talking about your own personal situation. Hey, thank you for your encouragement to Knuckle Hunkybuck. Thank you for your commentary about faith, and all the best to you and your family. He also adds, I think this is about the woman with the rant that we were talking about. The relationship was a lie. Surprised the relationship was a lie. I don't know if she said... I don't know if she's said anything true. She's been cheating the whole time and she's an atheist, yet women wonder why guys don't want to date anymore. Is that about that woman or is that about his own situation? Now I'm confused. Maybe I misinterpreted. Anyway, the point is, don't defer to female nonsense. Become a leader. And sounds like you have, Polaris. Congratulations to you, man, and God bless you. Stooge McDuck. Oh, no. I think I can. How much do you care about your reputation?
Whatever, I don't
care. Right, the Stooge McDuck. The child plays happily as her family chimps out. All right, that's a little bit of hate in that heart.
I have no idea what that means.
I thought. Oh, here it is. I thought I had it in here.
I can't believe that someone would have so much like hate in their heart.
Hey, just lean in, man. I guess if they're going to be so sensitive to the jokes, you have to make the jokes. Joshy Boy says, it's not a man's job to tame a woman. It's the job of the father. I suppose that could be true. They can either come right or be left alone. Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but fundamentally, a woman's husband is not the same as her father, though I suppose maybe in the old days, and I know you're a big fan of the old days in many contexts, Joshy, like arranged marriages and the tradition of father handing daughter off to his soon-to-be son-in-law. Maybe it's like they're arm in arm, like stopping female bullshit together, dad and a woman's husband. Maybe there's something to that, but I don't know, like, I agree that the best, most marriage-eligible women come from strong fathers, for sure. If I'm evaluating who I'm going to marry, the quality of the father is surely a key point for evaluation. That said, I do believe the tendencies that we saw in that video, at least to varying degrees, are present in even the most well-raised woman, and will have to be kind of reined in by her husband, even if dad did an excellent job. So I'll take your point. Dad's important for sure, but you still have obligations and roles as a man and a husband too. And when she starts doing those crazy things, it's like all her mannerisms too. The way she goes, and just screams. It's like, good Lord, the content of what you're saying is irritating enough, but the way you present it is even worse. Stop her.
It's like a cartoon character personality.
Yeah. It's of such a quality that I'm like, what attracted this man in the first place? Did she just present completely differently on the first date?
I don't know, man. Seems very, I guess it's a passive guy. He's probably, I don't know. The fact that he didn't just leave kind of tells you he just was sort of taking whatever he could get.
Well, based on her philosophy expressed otherwise, I'm guessing he was able to get a lot of things. That is to say, I doubt that she was protective of her assets. She seems like she'd probably be pretty free. Mm-hmm. She'd be a liberated, strong woman.
I don't know why he didn't just lie and say he voted for Kamala if that's what he was after. Like, just take the path of least resistance, read 5 talking points off the internet. Like, I don't know if that's really what he was after.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm all about killing this baby that we accidentally create. And we will be unburdened by what has been, and that baby absolutely will have been.
Unfortunately.
It's funny because we're laughing about a hypothetical baby, not the actual ones that she's probably aborted like 5 times by now. The purpose of the ages. Those who call into this show are a little different. No offense. I listen to just hear the strange topics. Now we have drama with callers acting a little funny. Baseball, huh? Yeah, I mean, that's fine. Again, I don't want to like act like this is some big dramatic controversy. Like I said, I think it's great to have competing perspectives, and that's what I'm trying to host. That's awesome. So it's not disrespect to GR or to Steven. I'm glad that they were able to interact. The only thing I'm trying to push back on is claims that somehow I'm responsible or Steven's responsible for a conversation that was initiated and sustained by the caller. It is not like I'm not trying to say something mean. I'm not doing the old
you suck, fuck you.
I'm saying just like take responsibility for the call, and nobody's blaming you. It's like, great, all right, there's a back and forth idea, that's fine. It's just we don't have to blame people for the way the conversation went or something like that. Anyway, I think we're all set. We're good over on Rumble. Yeah, we're good on DLive. And good on YouTube and Tippy. Let me give a quick refresh. Anything else you want to say before we're out of here for the night?
I might be on Steve Bannon's show tomorrow morning, but it's not confirmed. But just look out for that.
Okay, what are you going to be talking about?
The Chinese Communist Party related business.
What time is that? Sorry, I've kept you so late.
Oh man, I actually have no idea. They just said they'll get that, they'll reach out.
Okay, well.
So
good luck.
The thing is about shows like that, because they have a lot of guests, is they are very subject to change. I would actually say more than half the time they reschedule. It's even the same with Fox and stuff for the more breaking news shows. But hopefully tomorrow at a reasonable time.
Well, it must be nice to get invited to things.
Congratulations, buddy.
I hadn't talked to him in a while, so I just texted him, can I come on the show?
See,
and
he wrote back.
He wrote back, hell yes. And I was like, all right, it's exactly what I want to hear.
See, I'm not invite myself to other people's show guy, but the difference is you're going on a guy's show and I'm not.
I can get you the hookup. So if you ever want.
No way. I'm not going on Sloppy Steve's show. He's too sloppy for me.
Come on.
I'm a man of I don't know. It's great. Just tune into, what is it, War Room? Is that it?
Yeah.
Tune into War Room tomorrow.
I think it's on Rumble. No, it's on Rumble. I shouldn't act in this,
And maybe Matt Palumbo will be on if they don't find somebody better in the.
If not, enjoy the show, I guess. But
all right.
If I'm on, I'll tweet tomorrow morning.
There you go. Speaking of, at Matt Palumbo 12, linked in the description, as well as BonginoReport.com and your George Soros book. And you're working on another George Soros book about Alex to come out at a future date.
Yes, it's been. The thing that was good about the George Soros book, or made it easy, was there was such a volume of research already done that my job was more of that of an aggregator, and that I'm just sort of stripping out the best parts or what I think is the most insightful parts, and then, sort of making connections between things that haven't been done before. But this book is almost like either entirely original or from foreign sources. But like I've done 2 studies so far with the Media Research Center. That's all original, tracking things like his White House visits. I've done a lot of research of his work in Albania, and I've actually been working with one of the former presidents of the country and on the chapter. And I don't know, it's been a
Speaking
pretty
of
surreal
connections,
experience.
you want to get hooked up with the Kremlin? I can do that for you.
That would be perfect.
I
I might
know-
be
I
going
know
on
a
a
guy.
Jackson Hinkle show in a few months.
Oh,
so,
okay. All right.
yeah.
Well, we'll talk about it. All right. Thanks for tuning in tonight, everybody. Thanks to live chatters and super chatters for making the live show a success. If you're listening on demand later, thank you kindly as well for supporting the show. Thanks to my guest, Liberty Doll. Thanks to Matt Palumbo for sitting shotgun tonight. Find both of their links atop the description. If you'd like more to listen to, you can check out the podcast page of my website, mattchristiansenmedia.com/podcasts. You'll find not just the video show, but the audio show too, if you prefer podcast listening. Anything else show related, mattchristiansenmedia.com is where you find it, or mattis.gay if you prefer brevity and you can't spell my last name like the talented Matt Palumbo. But I'm back on Wednesday and Sunday nights, of course. Have a great night and a great week in the meantime. Hope to see you back on Wednesday night.